Let me turn on the record, the tape each day, each week. Anybody want to do it?
Jacob is classic.
That's the kind of thing everybody volunteers someone else, right?
Sure.
You want to do it? Try, you know.
Yeah.
I try too, I just forget. Okay, thanks. Because I'm taping this for Tim, who doesn't have a lot of background in green building. And he said, Patrick, would you teach it one more time and tape it? And then I can look at the tape and see how you do it. And then next year he'll teach it. So that's why I'm doing these classes. It's not for my health, you know. Although I do like a lot of you guys. Actually, I like all you guys. Oh, my dad used to. That's the thing about teachers. They hate the schools and administration and all that crap. But they love the students. Students are always great. Anybody here thinking about being a teacher? Come on. Well, keep this in mind. Building, especially if you're framing or doing commercial construction, it's really hard on your body. And at some point, you're going to want to relax that and not push it. It's a good time to transition into teaching. So when you guys get bored of something I'm doing, I can't change that because it's how much information you can take in. Watch how I teach, study how I teach, so that when you get to that point, you'll remember things. And you go, oh yeah, I remember he did that. And you'll have a head start. Seriously. Kevin will be teaching, you know. Dennis will be teaching. Right, Dennis? Okay, so we're gonna look at a few daylighting YouTubes. And I may zip through them if they get too
So we all know that windows can provide a great view, right? But if they're placed in the right locations, they can also save you money on your utility bill. And they can help keep you more comfortable at home or work.
So maybe
It's called daylighting, and it takes a simple concept to a new level. Daylighting combines lots of things, everything from
maybe
the
somebody
type of
hit one of
window,
those,
window
just one of the
placement,
lights
and
over there.
interior design to control how sunlight comes in. They all work to maximize benefits from natural sunlight.
Okay, how can I get that bigger?
Check this out. Windows that face south are best in the US. They
Bottom
let in the
right.
most light in the winter
Bottom
months,
right.
but little direct sun during the summer.
Where?
The inside
Here?
even natural light with glare and
Wait, somebody come up.
windows that face east and west don't work nearly as well for daylight. They do provide lots of light in
There we
the
go.
morning and afternoon, but it often comes with lots of glare and excess heat during the summer months.
Oh, there. Okay. I knew.
Have a look at this energy efficient office building. The windows team up with skylights to provide most of the light you need. Notice the light color of the ceiling.
Okay, so American industry, and this is kind of industrial, it's sort of a warehouse, it might be an office, but it looks like it maybe originally was a warehouse. They actually did a lot of daylighting from the 30s, 40s, 50s to the war. If you go to any kind of factories that are made into gyms or things in Goleta, there's some. You'll see a lot of daylight, a lot of window, natural light like this. So it's not a new thing. We're just going back to it more.
It fills the room. What
But I mean, that's a lot of light, right?
Most of the time, you don't need them. To account for glare, this office building placed hoods outside around the windows. The hoods also cut down on summer heat, keeping the office cooler and more comfortable. On the inside, louvers or tinting reduce glare and also direct light to reflective surfaces inside, allowing plenty of natural light to come into work areas. One big help to daylighting is the window technologies available today. Windows are now way more energy efficient. They insulate while still letting the light you want in. And have a look at this. It's an electrochromic window. This special window changes with the brightness of the sunlight outside. As the sun tracks
It's like your
across the
glasses,
sky,
you know,
it
that
darkens to
sunglasses
keep
that
excess
go
heat
back and
out.
forth.
It's like giant polarized sunglasses. Daylighting can have a positive effect. Studies have shown that with good daylighting at the office, productivity goes up, absenteeism goes down. And that's good for the bottom line. Natural lighting and heating means you use less electricity.
So see these windows right here? Up high like that? That's called a clerestory. Okay, that's an architectural term, but it's useful for builders because there's certain shed roofs that have this, they have a split shed, they'll have a shed on this side and a shed on that side. And they'll have these windows. In fact, when we go to campus, we'll look at it. One of our classes, well, several of our classes built the shed for the horticulture down in the garden area on campus. And I designed it and I did a clerestory like this. But it's a good way to let light in, you know, it's up high. So you can get light to the back of a room, whereas lower windows you can't. But glare and heat are things you have to watch out with daylighting, just like if you're heating, you have to watch out the same way. So these are all this talk about overhangs, and sometimes the overhangs are adjustable or they're made exactly. A good architect can design it knowing where the sun's going to be, you know, in that area. If we go to UCSB and look, there's a lot of good stuff. We'll probably do a field trip there. There's an office space that looked an awful lot like the one we just saw, and they have a lot of. It was only made about 5 years ago, and they have a lot of really cool daylighting and light shading techniques.
And lower your utility bill. And the more natural lighting, the more money you can save.
All right, all right. Can you hear it okay? Okay, stop right here. Anybody have any bikes like this? Own any of these? E-bike? So what do you call, they're not e-bikes, they're not bicycles. What do you call them? Electric bikes?
Yeah,
But they're not technically an e-bike when they have
like a third hand bike.
yeah, well, these bigger ones.
No, I think those are, those are e-bikes.
Those are still e-bikes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're calling them e-bikes, but they're a whole different category. E-bikes have a 28 to 20 mile per hour limit on all of them. These can go faster. So there's a big issue in Santa Barbara of kids, teenagers getting these kind of bikes, riding too fast, unsafe, hitting people, almost hitting people downtown, and they're blaming it on e-bikes. I have the old person's e-bike, which helps me bike. And I just gave a talk to a bunch of seniors in my area, and we all have e-bikes, and those are e-bikes that can't go more than 20 or 28, and they're very safe. You know, yeah. Yeah, so there's gonna be regulation coming, but the old e-bike, the regular e-bikes are getting a bad name. I wouldn't have brought that up, but I saw this, Okay. Elias, is yours American or from Europe?
American. It's like the dirt bike.
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Okay, so this is from, the other was kind of commercial, factory, office. This is residential, and this is an architect talking about daylighting.
Eric here with Red Before You Design Workshops.
They call it he calls it borrowing light.
How we borrow light. And it begins with a little
Yes.
bit of a history lesson. In 1915, the 38-story Equitable Building in New York City was the largest office building in the world. It contained 1.2 million square feet of office space and consumed nearly every available square foot of its diminutive lot. It cast an equally large shadow on its neighborhood in Lower Manhattan. Its construction inspired the enactment of the city's
Okay, they're using it as an example of a building that cuts other people's sunlight. So in big cities, you have that problem. But I want to mention something. See how this building comes up and then it goes in a little bit here and then comes back out? They did that so you could have many more windows on that inside. So actually, this building was designed for daylighting for itself, even though it shadowed the buildings around it. So you'll see at this era, they did a lot of buildings that had these all around, they went in, they had little indentations and they had windows and all that. So they gave extra light. So they've been figuring this out for a while. They're using this as an example of needing laws to keep people from shading their
16
neighbors.
zoning resolution, which was designed to preserve access to light and air at the street level. The resolution prescribes specific limitations for a building's envelope, its outer walls, and would go on to shape the stepped forms that increasing
yeah.
focus on sustainable design practices. The smart use of natural daylight in our homes is no longer a luxury. It's become a necessity.
Okay, so we're gonna see a lot of examples where they borrow light from various areas to other areas. And a lot of it is so you can see, light so you can see. But I've noticed that it also makes patterns and makes actually the aesthetics of the interior much more interesting. Do you see that? And how many have heard of Frank Lloyd Wright? I probably asked you this before. So he was probably America's premier architect, designed beautiful buildings way ahead of his time. This is a derivative of his architecture, but he had all kinds of clear stories, and he would put carved little blocks that would create kind of patterns in the light. I don't know, at some point I'll show you that, but that's what this reminds me of.
At the heart of any good daylighting strategy is a concept of borrowed light. The capture of light falling on the exterior of a home and transporting it to the spaces where it's needed. The sun delivers an incredible amount of light energy to us each day. To get an idea of just how much, it helps to understand the standard by which we use to measure light intensity, the foot candle. Light from a full moon is roughly 1 foot candle, while the sun's illuminance on a cloudless day is roughly 10,000 foot candles. Of course, clouds and the filtering effects of glass can reduce the actual amount of light that reaches the interiors of our homes by some 50 to 90%. But 1,000 to 5,000 foot candles is still an amazing amount of light, given that we only need around 35 foot candles to comfortably read by. Harnessing this light energy isn't as simple as placing a window on an exterior wall. Interior rooms without access to an exterior wall or spaces oriented in a way.
So see, I don't know if you can see, I'll help you out. This is actually clear glass right here. So they built a wall, it's a bedroom wall, so they want privacy, so they put glass, they just didn't leave it open. Occasionally you'll see walls that are open, if people don't need that kind of sound privacy, but this allows, there's probably a window on this, in this room over here, and allow that light to come into this room, so. That's what they're trying to
Restricted
do.
access to adequate daylight are common problems, each with a unique solution. Here's a look at some of those solutions. Walls. Interior walls built to collect and disperse light rather than restrict it are one solution. The wall shown here gathers indirect light from an adjacent light-filled bathroom and capitalizes on the reflective nature of the bath's wall surfaces to diffuse it into the bedroom. Clear glass will transmit the greatest amount of light into adjacent spaces. And because the glass here is positioned above eye level, the bath remains private and sound isolated. The white walls of the same bathroom act as the indirect light source for the nearby bedroom.
See, there's that glass
Light
that
neutral
goes into the
colors work
bedroom.
well for an indirect borrowed lighting strategy. Good solar exposure is borrowed by the bedroom simply via the glazed upper wall. Because translucent materials reflect, absorb, and scatter light, they make great walls for borrowing light. The degree of translucency will affect just how much light is scattered. The effect is similar to obscuring direct sight, but preserving the passage of daylight. Diffused light is comfortable and limits eye strain. Translucency can be achieved in a variety of ways. Glass can be sandblasted or acid etched. It can also be textured or laminated. With laminated glass, a plastic interlayer lends a translucent effect similar to that created by sandblasting, but without the marking characteristics. There are applied films to consider as well. Full-height glass walls offer auditory but not visual privacy. When there's limited access to exterior window space, they're an obvious choice. The perceived dimensions of our rooms are naturally increased when we use the borrowed light concept. This means it works particularly well for spaces with floor area constraints. In this project, the concept of borrowed light has been applied to the overall ordering system in place. There's a logic to the order of solid and void. And
A lot of
offers
privacy
plenty
in
of
that
light to
glass,
bedroom
huh?
space. The pattern on the glazed wall has been achieved with a custom film. The design was created from a sketch by the architect. The vaulted ceiling and clerestory take advantage of reflected light from the entire volume of space. Stairs. Another option and an efficient vehicle for borrowing light in a home is the stairway. It's a natural conduit for illuminating an often light-starved lower level. If the stair can,
So in a few weeks, we're gonna go to my house for a field trip. Cause I have a lot of, over the years, I put a lot of environment, green things in the house. And one of the things I did is I put a solar tube, which we're gonna look at a film on that, over the stairway. Cause otherwise I would have had the light with artificial light, so I can use that all during the day, that light, and I don't have to spend money on the light.
be positioned to capture and reflect light from above by either fully glazing it or using a skylight, it's even more effective. The combination of glass guard and white walls has made this stairway a light source for the surrounding rooms. A solid wall used here would have changed this space dramatically. Interior windows. Whether they're cleared or frosted, there are plenty of functional incentives to borrow light using interior windows. The ones here bring in light from the adjacent living area while preserving the nursery's acoustical privacy. Interior windows aren't subject to the same weathering and insulation restrictions as exterior windows, so they're less expensive to buy and install. Making them operable, especially in a stairwell where natural convective flow is greatest, can help to passively ventilate a space too. Why connect a bar and a powder room?
Hold on, sorry.
I don't really have a good functional.
So you guys aren't designing your own places right now that you're building, but you might be someday. You know, sometimes contractors design things too. You don't have to become an architect, especially additions. A lot of times a contractor won't want to hire an architect who are normally expensive to design an addition. So if you're working for a company that's doing that, or it's your company, construction company, not architecture, you can learn from this kind of thing and design a lot of cool things like daylighting things. So, so it's not as far away from your grasp and what you might be doing in the future as you think. And also in your own, one thing about builders is they also build their own house. And that's useful for your own house too. So pay attention to these daylighting things. In fact, pay attention to all this green stuff because you can use it in your own homes. Look at it, they got all the liquor against the light. That's cool, huh? Bars like to do that, don't they?
Room. I don't really have a good reason, but I don't really need one. I love the idea that the powder room will look different based on what's on the top shelf and the time of day. In the bar too, the difference is that the powder room renders to its backsplash can be appreciated. It's these connections that make architecture interesting. Linking spaces doesn't always have to make sense. Function light well and be surrounded by reflective wall. The floor hovers in the space instead of being extended to the full width of the gable. And the overall effect is
Also,
lighter and
obviously,
brighter.
white paint
The
really
more we open
reflects
up our
light.
interior spaces, the easier it becomes to
I
bounce.
mean, look at
daylight
that
around
place.
from
Look at how
areas
lit up
with
that
solar
is.
exposure to areas with poor exposure.
Couple of skylights.
Painting
and
surfaces with a higher sheen paint further helps distribute the light. This luminous shower is an example of how a light well and skylight can transform a tight space into a pleasant one. Not here though. The skylight ensures that the existing home borrows daylight at its perimeter. Transoms. Similar in concept to the ideas seen in the first images, a glass transom extends the dimension of a space and introduces light to a room without compromising its privacy. Or spaces where a lot of glass isn't desirable. Although short tubes are used in this project, concept is similar. 6 large tubes light this otherwise dark space, a bold and considered point.
Okay, we're gonna look at. We're gonna look at a quick one on solar tubes. Because that's a form of daylighting.
Question about the walls that are either all glass or part glass, they have to like do the same, like support them on the outside like our windows with the framing?
No,
No?
no, they can just be framed. There's no flashing because you're not worried about air going back and forth, so. They have to be safety glass if they're, you know. We'll look into that too. There's the rules for how close windows can be to walkways and front doors and stuff. And if they're too close, they have to be safety glass. So a lot of that stuff would be safety glass, but no, they just put a stop on either side to hold them in place.
And they're like, they use special glass that's like strong enough to.
Yeah, so that, you know, it's safety glass and tempered glass, they develop because when regular glass breaks, it breaks in big shards, often with points, and you can get cut with that, you can get killed, people die from that. If it happens to fall and cuts your neck or your femoral artery, you'll bleed out, you're dead. So they said, well, God, can't we make glass that won't break that way? And so they made this tempered and safety glass that breaks up in little pieces. So you can get cut a little bit, but you won't die from it. So there's pretty strong rules about where you have to use that.
A Solitude daylighting system uses natural light to brighten your home. It's also more affordable than a traditional skylight and takes only 2 hours to install. It captures sunlight through a patented dome, transfers it into your home's interior, and transforms your rooms into brighter, more beautiful spaces.
So that, it's a tube, it's a metal, it's a aluminum, I think it is, tube. It may have some kind of thing, but the light just bounces off the metal tube. I mean, it's nothing special. It's not a huge thing. Although for what they charge you, you'd think it was huge.
Learn why a Solitude daylighting system is one of the quickest, easiest, and best home improvements you can make.
Especially when you have a room that's not in a window, like an interior bathroom. Like, again, I have one interior stairway in the bathroom upstairs, which used to be my kids' bathroom. It was really dark, and so I put a solar tube above that, and so that it lights up, you know, all day. The great thing about a solar tube, let me go back, and then we'll be off of this. So this tube here, right? That can be bent. Actually, some of them are flexible, not rigid like this, and they can be bent. You know, you can do a flexible tube and the light will actually, they figured out, will bounce off the sides. And if there's something directly, there's framing or something directly below that, so you couldn't put a skylight there, you can use a solar tube and work your way around it with the bending tube. So like in my house, that's why I did it, because I had an attic that had a lot of framing that was in the way. But I could get I couldn't do a skylight, but I could get a solar tube. So it's really been it's a great invention. It's really brought a lot of daylight into homes. So okay. Okay, so y'all know what a pergola is?
Pergola?
Pergola. We've got a thing about daylight and it's done by an Australian, and he says everything differently. I think they say, it doesn't sound like pergola. I don't know what they say, but it's kind of odd, but
Is it that bench right there or what?
okay, this is a pool area. I just took these pictures around town, around my house. But it's great for keeping the sun off you when you're not wearing much. This is the what? Gazebo. So gazebo is like a special type of pergola. It's usually symmetrical. And it's great for this is in my development. It's great because it gets hot, right? And you can sit under those, and they've got either a solid roof or a and you can see the shade it gets. So it's a great thing, and it's just going to get hotter in the world. So these are really great things to learn how to build.
Yeah.
I started an outside structures class here years ago, in which we built that Japanese pergola over there. But I couldn't get people to take it after that because they just wanted to get the core classes and get out of here. And I have to have 15 or so to get for a class to run, so I could never get it. But maybe Tim will open it up again. You can put plants on a pergola and, you know, make even less sun coming through. And then it adds more carbon sequestering material as well. So pergolas are a big part of the solution to global warming. You know, keeping you hot from cool from the increase thing, having another space to grow plants and shade. But there's a million designs of these things. I think I've got Oh, this is the campus, right? By the garden there, by the bookstore. Seen that one across there? And I know the landscape architect who did it. I don't think it's as good as the ones I do, but we compete. So a lot of these have Spanish designs. If you look at the one on the other side of this building here, that a class did, I had a summer school class that did. And the brace, you know, the design is Mexican or Spanish. The difference is the people in Mexico were Spanish before they had the revolution and called themselves Mexicans. Same people, but earlier they were called Spanish. And in New Mexico, anybody ever been to New Mexico? People there call themselves Spanish. They don't call themselves Mexican. Same people, but they settled New Mexico before the Mexican Revolution. So they're Spanish, New Spanish from New Spain, and after the revolution, people from that area are Mexicans now, because that's the country. But anyway, either of those, a lot of this design comes from that. These braces and stuff have those curves that I'm sure you've noticed. But in this area, it really looks nice, you know, all these the way they design them.
So was that factory cut or did you guys, or they cut themselves?
Great question. So you can get them done. You can order them. I've always cut my own, and I just use a bandsaw if I can. If it's small enough, if it's just one of these, I can do it on a bandsaw. If not, I actually take a saber saw and I go from both sides, and then I sand the hell out of it to get it right.
Because the only thing that makes it Spanish is the end, right? The end,
Yeah, so if they're long ones, yeah. But you can take if you're really careful, you know, saber saw the blade bends, right? But if you can figure out a way to keep it straight, either using a thick blade, a lot of these are made out of pine too. But fir also, you can get the line fairly straight and cut it from both sides, and there might be a little crust in the middle, then you can just sand that off. Yeah, we had summer school kids, we did all these pergolas around here. Here's one we did, in fact, that's probably me, right? Yeah,
Is that you?
yeah, so see, we did all these in whoops. Yeah, but students were doing it too, right? We had a summer school classes with high school kids, only Mexican American, only Hispanic local high school kids. And we paid them, we got a bank to finance, and it was their first job, a lot of them. So we paid them a little stipend, and then they did different things. They did that. This is the one in front of the closest one, pergola. We did a lot of things with them. It's really fun. See all these curves here? It's fun though, and it really looks good. It's a great design, and it honors our Hispanic heritage. So these are really good shade things for Santa Barbara. Yeah, there's the class. I didn't mean to go through these, but I want to show you, we did a bench because there was a place there where Hispanic families came and got different kinds of help, driver's license stuff, and they had to sit somewhere. So we built benches so they could sit while they were waiting.
and how did you guys get the beams though?
How what?
How did you guys get the beams though?
Cut the ends of them? Like I said,
No, how did you guys get the beams up?
with the class. We had scaffolding, so they could get it up to the scaffolding and then up on the. Yeah. Okay, so we did another. So they were redoing the Santa Barbara City College gym. And you know, bleachers are all usually wood. And they were throwing away this vertical grain Douglas fir, which means there's no knots. It's just, I don't even know if we have any in here. They were throwing it away. And so it was my 70th birthday. I had the flu and I happened to drive by and I saw they were put in the dumpster. And I said, no. So I called Carol Ashley up because we had been working together. And I said, get down here. And I called one of my teachers here. And we emptied the dumpster. We took all the wood, put it in a pile, and then the next couple of days we brought it here. I mean, that stuff's worth thousands of dollars, and they're just throwing it away.
So they have a version now?
So what we did with it was, we laminated, and we made beams with it, and we made a pergola out of it.
And how long ago was that? 5 years ago?
Yeah, not that long ago, 5, 6 years ago, yeah. So it was, you can see the lines. I don't know if you can, I can see it on mine better than yours, but you can see that it's laminated pieces, right?
You laminated it yourselves, or did you
No, we laminated it.
with?
We cut each piece with a pattern. Then we laminated them, and they were all a little off because they're students, right? They're high school students. And they weren't the most accurate. And then we just sand across it so it was smooth. But look at it, it looks bitchin'. I mean, look at the, it's totally. When you do it, when you laminate it, then you can do each piece and it's much easier to get the curves on it, right? Because you're just going through, one by. So, but that's something to think about, this is another class did the, what do you call it? In the front of the school where they have all you've seen that when you drive in, what's that called, a kiosk?
Oh, for the parking.
No, this in this school, it's a kiosk and it's got brochures about what's that one. Oh, so here we're taking and this we might go see Saturday because it's on the West Campus. But anybody, there's a preschool, the City College has their own preschool and they educate preschool teachers and the community can use it for preschool. And they wanted a pergola, so we did it. And this is what we did, the laminated ones. You can see the posts and this was a class, CT 110 or something. But yeah, they wanted this and we said, okay, we like to build stuff for the campus because we don't have to worry about insurance. Because it's part of, we're part of the campus, so we don't get hassled. They go, yeah, build whatever you want. So then we're gonna go see this tomorrow too. Anybody ever been to the math lab on West Campus?
That's the ideal scene building.
Yeah, so the math lab's right in here downstairs. If you're taking math, you probably been in the math lab. Because who knows math, right? So we built this and I designed it so that the posts came down in these little square garden things. So the vines could be planted in the garden and go right up. We'll go see how far along they are. This was probably 4 years ago too. See how they're into the boxes there? And
Now,
then
this is a class, right? That you taught.
this is a class here, yeah. This is like 110 or I don't know what it was.
Is that singing right there?
You look like a long hair.
Yeah, you might see. Any of you know Jim Cunningham had him for a class? Yeah, so he helped me with it. I designed it, got it all started, and then he helped. Because we share classes, so we have a project, we'll get the other teachers to donate their classes for it. But that's kind of cool, right? That's a hot area there. It's all concrete. And I think it's got a lot of vines on it now. Anybody been there recently and know that? We'll go see it Saturday. But those things are they're simple solutions, but they shade. And it's gonna keep getting hotter, so we gotta start thinking outside shade in general. Okay, yes.
Is Jim still doing non-credit classes?
Is Jim still doing what?
Non-credit classes?
No, he's finally given up the ghost.
Really?
Yeah, because his business is, he's getting older and he's getting to the point where he can only do one. And I thought he'd want to do teaching because it's easier, but he makes more money contracting and he doesn't work, he just guides people, so he's chosen to do that. So Rodney's taking up the slack. He's doing most of the non-credit. And Tim's gonna need some teachers because I'm doing this to help him out, if he'll film and look at. But he's got too many classes. Like when I was chair for 13 years, I had Jim and Rodney. And I needed them because I couldn't teach. There wasn't enough time in the day for me to teach all the classes. So I picked the ones I wanted and I gave them the harder or the crappy ones and they did that. for years, but I don't see how Tim's gonna get around that. He's gonna have to, and Rodney's my age. And his health is so, you know, we're gonna need some young.
Does he teach or does he just step in to like fill in? like,
Well,
stuff?
young people like you guys, like not the kids here, you know, the ones who are just out of high school, but the ones who've got a little bit of age, you could do it, but you're building, you're making money and a career in building, so you don't want to do this, you know, you want to do something active and make money. So it's really hard to get young people, and we want people. Tim's was a good choice, you know, because he was old enough, he's a little bit older. And he's got some experience, and then he'll last. We didn't want to get another 70-year-old. Rodney's 75, Jim's 76, I'm 76. You know, there's no future in that. And
There is.
so, well, yeah, so we wanted to get so when we were hiring, you know, I saw Tim and I thought, well, I know Timmy, and I've seen his work, he's done good, and he was old enough, he wasn't real young, he had some experience, and he has a lot of future ahead of him, which the school likes, you know. But we gotta find new teachers. And, you know, you guys are welcome to apply if you get to a point and you have enough experience. But my feeling is that most young people like you guys don't wanna do that yet, you know, right?
What's enough experience?
Well, you'd have to talk to Timmy. The school, well, here's another thing, the school, there's requirements, minimum education requirements, so I think you have to have an AS, which if you complete this certificate and you take like 5 more general ed classes, you'll have an AS. And I think that makes you eligible to teach in the program.
4 years of whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Or it's something to think about, you know, if not now, at least down the road a bit. Okay, so where are we? Okay, passive solar, yeah? So that's this, that one with the dark cover. Solar house, we got a whole book on it. Now, this is what happened, and your book talks about it. We're gonna look at the book a little bit. You read the chapters. When people realized they could get, and it's funny because the Native Americans realized it a long time ago. You go to the cliff dwellings in Arizona and New Mexico, and they're all facing south, you know, the sun comes in. So they figured it out, but it took white men a lot longer to figure it out. Once they thought, oh, hey, we got lots of windows, that technology is good. Why can't we let the sun in to heat the house? So they started building houses with just a ton of windows on one side. What happens? It overheated. Because unless something absorbs that heat, it just stays in the air and it just goes up 90, 100. Pretty soon your house is boiling. And they said, even in Colorado, and there's a picture in the book, and there's snow, and there's mountains and snow around, overheats, doesn't matter. So then somebody figured out, oh yeah, then they put science, they borrowed science, and that's the big change buildings gone through. They allowed science to come in and help them with some of the ideas, and heat transfer, which we'll talk about at some point later, was a really good concept to learn about, and scientists know a lot about it, and they just finally shared it with builders. And so the way to avoid that is to get mass that absorbs a solid material like concrete or stone or the best, or brick. And that will, when the sun hits that will go into it, right? It'll keep going into the depth of that and stay there. And then it's no longer in the air where you're living. So if you're gonna have a lot of windows and let that sun in, you've got to have a certain percentage of thermal mass, a percentage of your window space. And they figured it out. Now it's just a formula that everybody knows, and you're going to learn it tonight. You don't have to memorize it, but you're going to see how it works. And so now they know enough to, and every time I go to a building now that's got a lot of windows, I always look around and check and see if there's enough mass, because not everybody knows that. They're just builders like a lot of windows. So I went to Direct Relief, you know, that charity organization. They always give stuff to calamities that happen everywhere, earthquakes and stuff. And they took over. It's funny, Carol Ashley, you know Carol Ashley, she had her shop right where. And she was renting right where Direct Relief wanted to build a building, so she had to move again. But it's by the airport there. You know where that is? It's, well, could you say, well, it's just across from the airport.
Richard Lopez Road.
Yeah, it's on Lopez Road. Okay, great. And yeah, you know, because of, yeah, Hayward. It's I went in there once to get a tour and there's nobody there. I couldn't find anybody, you know, and so I never did get a tour, but I looked at the entry opening. They have a giant opening area and it's got just windows that go up the whole thing. And I said, God, that's a lot of heat. And I looked around, but it had concrete walls and concrete floor. And I did a quick calculation and it didn't seem like enough to me, but they had air conditioning. So if it got too hot, they would just use the air conditioning. But I think it was a little under thermal massed for the amount of window space they had. They wanted this big dramatic window opening. So, but yeah, so finally people learned through trial and error. They said, okay, and they just figured out how much mass they would need for. And if you look at this handout, go to the third page, the second sheet. It shows the house. See that clear story on that section of the house on top? Remember we talked about that those windows that are high? Everybody see that? It's this one, the dark one, and it's the front of the second page. Yeah? Okay. So you can see how the sun will hit a back wall. So if you're using sunlight to heat, then that upper light will hit the top of a back thermal wall with a lot of mass. So that's a great design. That's why they use those clear stories for passive solar. Then they hit the floor, which is also got to be concrete. Then go to the back of that page. So it's this page. I don't know what that, I don't even know what that picture is. It's not a very good picture. But below it, I've got circled, it says window allocation and direct gain system. So if you're using normal thermal mass, which is, say, a wooden floor, which is more typical in concrete in this area. Most of the world has concrete floors, but we have wood, and then we have sheetrock walls. That's pretty standard for, United States. So that's a certain amount of mass. It's not it's only enough for 7 to 12% of the window has to be 7 to 12% of the floor. It can only be up to 12% of the floor, given that standard mass. If you want to have more windows and heat more passively with more space heating, then you have to up the percentage of thermal mass to a higher percentage. So that's what this whole handout's about. Let me see if I can find the formulas real quick. If you go to the even next page after that, the sunlight will bounce off of things. So it doesn't always have to be direct. Especially, if you've got light painted floors and walls, it bounces around what you want. So they give a formula. Okay, this page here, it says 104. Yeah. Oh,
I was looking at his, I'm like, I don't know.
okay, yeah, yeah. So 104. It shows there's categories. If the sun's hitting directly the floor, there's a certain percentage of floor with 3 inches thick thermal mass for a certain amount of window. If the sun's hitting a floor that's covered, then you have to have more of that mass. And if it's hitting a wall, you have to have a certain amount. So we won't go into the exact numbers. If you're interested, you can read the details, but for all those cases, it's a strict percentage of proportion of window to floor or window to thermal mass. You don't have enough thermal mass, but it's too hot. So you've got to take care of that. So that's what this handout's about. Now, the guys in the back there talking to be quiet. And look at, take this handout now. When it says, solariums and greenhouses, oh, Louis, sorry, I meant to tell you to get that when it came in. So. So I got this book, I just found this book this year. And it's the history of the solar house. So the goal for architects from after the war, the late 40s, Second World War, we were starting to be a very industrial country at that point. We'd done a lot of war, we made a lot of war material for the war, and we had a lot of factories, so we just, let's make everything, you know. And so the ideal with architects was to make a house that could be 100% solar heated, no auxiliary heat. Can you believe it? By the 40s, we didn't even have that. So a bunch of people at MIT and different architects started making these experimental. They just tried all kinds of different things. And the first, Frank Lloyd Wright tried it. This woman engineer, what's her name? Maria Telkes. I saw a documentary on her because she's kind of forgotten, partly because she's a woman. And she was competing against some men at MIT. But there were some really interesting innovators. But I'm just going to talk about one of those. So they started trying in the early 40s, like 1939, 1940. And they didn't get 100% solar house until 19. Hold on. I found this 1981. Can you believe it? 40 years ago. And the guy who did it was a retired engineer in Massachusetts. And when I lived in Maine, I went down and looked at this house. That's why and we're going to look at that house, part of this handout. But look at the first part. They were just trying to do all these sunrooms and solariums and places that the sun could come in and heat the thing up, and then that heat would go into the rest of the house. That was an idea for a while. So they had all these, and they mostly looked modern because the modern design kind of fit that. Look at on the back on page 29 or 11, numbered in two different ways. See that upper where it says winter and summer and it's got a shape of a house? You got that? Page 29. That's called an envelope house. And I lived in Maine for 10 years, and Maine, Maine's got a cold winter, right? You can imagine it's pretty cold. And it's probably like Switzerland. And it's probably colder than Switzerland. But so they developed, people were building these envelope houses where there's a house inside of a house. So you'd have a kind of a envelope around the house structurally, and then they'd let a part of it heat through glass, and the heat would travel around this envelope and heat the whole house. And I got to see some of those in Maine. I was really impressed. This was in the 1980s. And you would go to these places. They would have a what do you call it when you go see a house? Like open house. They would have an open house. They'd advertise. And in Maine, you got to drive 100 miles to go anywhere. So they'd say, up in this city, we're going to have an open house. So you get up in the morning early and you go there. And these places would be winter, and you walk in and they would have banana trees and tropical gardens going in the middle of winter. And the house was totally heated just from this envelope, no heat. So, and there's one in Colorado that's really famous that does the same thing in Snowmass outside of Colorado, real famous place. But this, I mean, it's too bad people haven't taken this more seriously. This was really big for a while. But go to this this page here. The number would be 37 and 7. They're from different things, so but you'll see a 37 on the left side and 7 in pencil on the bottom of the right one. You should be able to get that, right? So that's the house. It's by a guy named Saunders. And it was in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, so they call it the Saunders Shrewsbury. And that was, I think according to this book, because I confirmed it when I got this book, that was the first all solar house, 100%. So I went down there in winter from Maine. I went down to Shrewsbury to see it. I was a builder and a contractor and a carpenter then, but I was interested in sustainable stuff. And I drove down and it was winter and I went in and it was about 65 degrees, which is chilly, right? If your house is at 63, 65, it's a little chilly, but it's certainly not cold. And but he said it had been overcast for 2 weeks in the middle of winter, and he hadn't lit anything. He had a little stove that he could light to take the chill off, but he wasn't using it. And the house was, basically comfortable. You had to wear, clothes. You couldn't go around naked or half naked because it'd be too cold. But no heat in a Massachusetts winter. That's a pretty remarkable thing, just from the design of the house. And it was a really creative, unique house that was granted hard to duplicate. He was like this nut. He was a retired engineer, not a builder. So he just created all this. We'll go through it. But I mean, that's a pretty spectacular thing where you don't need any heat. I mean, it's nothing in Santa Barbara. You could go without heat here easily. When it got really cold, which it does occasionally, a few days, you can just wear a sweater and a coat and you'd be fine. But we're talking about Massachusetts, where they have winters. So this shape of this house is called a salt box. It's an old New England design. And it's got a long roof and then a shorter roof in the back. And the whole top of the front roof was glass slider door replacements. They would sell, when you break a sliding door, they just have the glass that replace it. It's double pane. And you can buy that and you can make fixed windows with it. And it's really cheap. I don't know if they have them here or not, but they did in Maine and they were new, you just get them from the manufacturer. So that whole attic was glass windows. That's a lot of heat, right? So he had, in the attic, he had, water, like the water thing there, the glass ones, what do they call it? They call them carboys back east. I don't know what they call them here. But like, when you put water in a cooler, that glass thing. Anybody know what they're called? Drinking fountain bottles. Dispenser bottles.
Water dispenser.
He had a whole attic full of those. So they would get hot, they would roast. Then he had a fan and he would pump the heat down to the basement. And the basement was all rock, stones. And they would absorb all that heat. And then he had a special, which we'll look at, he had a special layer below the glass that kept the heat from going out. He used Mylar, he had this little sandwich kind of thing. You'll see it, it's really ingenious. So the heat wouldn't leave. It would fill up these carboys, get really super hot, and then it would fan down to the basement. And then at night, the rocks would release the heat and they would go first to the greenhouse in the front of the house, keep the plants from freezing, and then to the rest of the house and heat it up. I mean, it was an ingenious, if you go to the pages that are after this, you can see a little clearer the diagram. You can see the glass roof and the greenhouse in front. And then you can see on the next page those little, what do they call them? Shutters. And if the sun's direct, like summer, it deflects it. And he figured all that out. And they were handmade. The carpenter just made them. They weren't manufactured. But that's pretty spectacular. I mean, you guys take all this for granted, especially because you're from a really temperate area, most of you are probably from, maybe some of you are from colder places originally, but for a colder place to have, and the Native Americans figured this out too. I used to spend a lot of time in New Mexico. I just would go there and drive and, write. I'm a writer, so I go places and write. And I'd always go to the Anasazi, the old pre-Pueblo, the people of Pueblos or Indians are descended from. And I would go to the places where they had parks that it would show. And what they did is they would dig into the ground 10 feet. And have a ladder going down, and they'd have structures on top. And during the day, they would work. And the cliff dwellings were the same thing. During the day, they'd work in the sunlight. They would come in and they'd just be on patios, they did whatever they were doing. Getting animals ready for food or weaving baskets, whatever they did. And then at night, they all went down the ladder, and the temperature 5 feet under is 60 degrees, 55 degrees year round. It doesn't change. It could be freezing on top. They would just go down and they would be 55 chilly, but it won't freeze to death. And they would have blankets, rabbit blankets, stuff. The whole family would go down there. And that's how they survived. I mean, that's a pretty smart thing to do, right? And all they did was sleep in there. It was probably had the dogs and everything else, huddled up. And then daylight comes and they go back out where it was nice and resume their day.
You said it was 10 feet?
Yeah, you have to go a certain amount down, and if you had a big family, there was one place where you could do it. They had a park set up and they had one, and it was probably about 10 feet down. You climb down a ladder and that was it, just pull something over the top, and it's a good thing to know in case the whole civilization goes under and you're in a cold place, you might think about that. Digging a deep hole and getting below the surface a bit. So then these are just other ideas. It was a big movement to build these kind of things. There's a little bit on daylight in the back, but that's mostly what I wanted to show you on that one. Let me show you some one video on passive solar, and then we'll take a break, okay?
Do you know the US solar company's nasty little secret? It turns out if you live in California, they have to give you solar.
So what's active? What's the difference between active solar and passive solar? This will probably be on the midterm. I'll prep you before that, but just to get your attention. What do you think the difference is? I talked about it once, but not very much.
Active and passive. I think
Yeah,
passive would be like solar panels, right? No, it's not.
no, solar electrical panels are active.
Okay. Passive would just be natural.
Yeah, passive is no electrical help. Just, nothing electrical. That's what that means in terms of that. So they used to have solar heating, which I probably won't get to tonight. I have tons of stuff to show you guys. But remember I told you about solar hot water? It's different than solar electricity. And we used to do a lot more, and now we've gone away from it. But it's really good because originally it was passive because you had you had to operate it by hand. So if you were living in an area that occasionally froze, you would drain it by hand. It would, when the day would go by, then you'd fill it back up. So that was passive. Then they started putting sensors, so they would sense the temperature and drain it before it froze, because if it froze, it would break the pipes. So once it got sensors and all these kind of mechanical things, then it became an active system. But it's still kind of basically a passive system. When you let sunlight into a house to heat it, that's passive. You don't need electrical or anything, it just comes in. So passive solar heating is space heating. That's another thing you can think about is you've got water heating in a house, hot water heaters, and you've got space heating. So it's a good way to call the kind of heating where you're just heating the temperature of a room, call it space heating. Okay? Those are good terms to use. So this is a good little, we'll go right after this. It's not short, but it's 5 minutes, and then we'll go for a break. This is the Australian one. I can't understand half what he said.
Avoid long blocks that run north-south, as they make it harder to achieve a 6-star standard. Try to pick a block where you can have your living.
See what I mean? There's a lot of Australians that are putting out YouTubes because they're kind of a parallel United States. They're a lot like us, and they develop in similar ways. So you get a lot of building stuff from down under. And I'll try to translate if it's really bad. My brother moved to Australia about 30 years ago and raised a family there, and his kids, oh my God, they call me on the phone. And sometimes I can't understand a word they're saying. They're speaking English, but their Australian accent is so strong. I mean, God, it's pretty funny, actually. I love them anyway.
Areas facing towards north on the block. By reducing the amount of wall area, you decrease the amount of inside space in contact with the walls, and this minimises the loss of heat and makes the home easier to heat and
So what he was saying is a long thin home's better because you get more rooms with the sun coming in, right? You don't want a square building because then there'd be too many things in the middle that aren't close to the sun. So longer buildings, the idea for these.
cool.
Wow, that was fast.
Maximise the sun to living areas by putting them on the north side. It is best to face the utility rooms to the south. This will reduce the need to.
So you hear that? He said, put the living rooms to the north. Is that right? He's down under, yeah. So it's just substitute south for north whenever he says it. It's funny.
Heat these rooms in winter and provide more natural light.
Yeah, so this,
You can see here how to divide
This
your
would be
home up into zones to make best use of solar passive design.
so, oh darn it.
Explore your.
Where am I? There.
Les Stronowski. Senior.
We're gonna see that one later, not tonight.
Have your living areas facing towards north on the block. By reducing the amount of wall area, you decrease the amount of inside space in contact with the walls, and this minimises the loss of heat and makes the home easier to heat and cool. Maximise the sun to living areas by putting them on the north side. It is best to face the utility rooms to the south. This will reduce the need to heat.
So what's a utility room?
Laundry room.
Laundry, what else? Good.
Storage closet.
Storage, what?
Storage closet.
Yeah, storage and laundry, any of those things that, garage or anything that you're not gonna spend a lot of time in.
These rooms in winter and provide more natural
So they
light.
show which ones.
You
Let's
can
see what
see
they-
here how to divide your home up into zones to make.
So this is the sun side, which would be the living room, of course. So the garage is on that side, the bedrooms are on that side, because usually you don't want those too hot. Although some people like light in their bedroom, so you change the design. This is kind of a living zone, but this is still in the front because the house jogs, right? So you're still getting, these are the hot and light areas here.
Make best use of solar passive design. It's important you understand the movement of the sun in relation to your block selection and your home design. You can see here the rotation of the summer sun. In summer, the sun is higher in the sky. By designing your home correctly, you can make sure the home is shaded in summer with eaves and other shading devices. From this view, you can see that the sun is not streaming into the north side windows, keeping the home cool on summer days. In winter, the sun is lower in the sky. This means that the sun can penetrate through the windows to the interior of the home, creating heat gain and reducing the need for artificial heating. In this view, you can see the sun penetrating into the living area and warming the home. Once you have correct block selection and home orientation, it's important to shade correctly so that in winter you can get heat gain from the sun, and in summer you are protected from the sun's rays. A simple way of achieving this is to ensure that your home has eaves or other shading devices. Pergolas can be used to keep out the summer sun. Remember to install at correct angles so that light can penetrate into the living rooms. Vertical and horizontal architectural features act as shading devices to keep out the summer sun. You can also use roller shutters or external awnings.
So we don't have a lot of exterior shutters here. We're not big on that, but they're more effective than the interior. Because once the sun gets through the window, it's already heating up. So it's more effective if you can stop it from even getting in the window. But for some reason, we're not really into that. We do use awnings, of course.
Are those retractable?
Yeah.
Covered open spaces,
Good
commonly
idea.
known as alfresco areas, should be placed on the south side of the house. This leaves the north side open to receive the winter sun. A covered area on the north side means sunlight cannot penetrate into the house, reducing warmth and natural light. You can still have private outdoor open space to the north of the home, but it should only have temporary shading, which can be withdrawn in the wintertime. The example here includes a pergola on which a deciduous
Pergola.
vine can be grown, which provides shade in summer, but allows the winter sun in when the leaves fall off. And again here, the uncovered open space allows the sun to penetrate into the living areas. Thermal mass is the ability to absorb, store and re-release heat. Thermal mass is heavyweight construction such as concrete or brick, but needs to be used on the interior to work as thermal mass. The advantage of having thermal mass in your home is that it moderates the indoor temperature in both winter and summer, as seen over the next few simulations. The winter sun shines down into the living rooms. The heat is stored in the thermal mass. As the air inside the house cools during the night, the heat in the thermal mass gets re-released back into the room and helps to maintain the internal temperature, requiring less heating. In this fly-through of the home, you can see how the winter sun is penetrating into the living room from the north side and how the concrete floor slab is storing that heat to be released at night.
So concrete floor is good. You gotta be able to, you gotta want that, you know, some people don't like concrete floors, they're hard on the feet. I don't like them myself, but the walls, sheetrock's not really enough. Some people put double layers of sheetrock. But you could put triple layers, I mean, to build up thermal mass if you really want to do that. Sheetrock's relatively inexpensive compared to your utility bills. So you could put more sheetrock. You could put also a what's called a designer wall. You know how people have walls and it'll be barnwood, say, in a house. You've seen those? Is that what they call them? Designer walls, feature walls, whatever. You could do one out of brick or stone. And there used to be more stone in living rooms than there are now. It's kind of not faddish anymore. But stone and brick would look fine. You could even paint out the brick to white to match the thing, but it would absorb a lot of heat. So those are all options.
You can also see the living room is fully lit from the winter sun, requiring no artificial lighting in the daytime. The summer sun is higher in the sky, so with correctly sized and proportioned eaves and other shading devices, you can keep your home cooler by keeping the heat out. During the day.
So see, those are all design features, right? You're not even talking about materials except for the thermal mass or anything. You're talking about thinking it through before you even build it. So that thought can save you tons of money. And we've got all the information. We know how to do this. It's you know, common knowledge.
As the air inside the house warms up, it is absorbed by the slab, which is cooler because it is in contact with the cooler earth. This keeps the internal temperature cooler. At night, as the air inside the house cools, the heat from the slab moves back into the room. It's important then to have breezeways, which can be used to cool the house by opening windows or doors. Looking at the interior of the home in summer, you can see that occupants are shaded from the harsh sun. In conjunction with the use of thermal mass, it's important that your home has good breezeway design as shown in this fly-through.
So what's breezeway? Yeah, it's a path of breeze. It's the way of the breeze. So you need openings in two areas for the breeze to go across. So that's all they're saying. I was just checking if you guys were understanding this.
You can also reduce the energy required to heat or cool your home by creating an airlock at the entry of your home. This creates a buffer.
Did you hear what that was? Airlock? Okay, good. So I learned all about airlocks when I lived in Maine, and they have a thing called, what do they call it? Not an airlock, but that's what it is. Mudroom, thank you. Yeah. Who said, Robin, you said, are you from back east?
No,
Oh.
I'm from the Bay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, anywhere back east, Massachusetts.
Yeah, or it's my
Yeah, places that are colder or that rain or snow a lot. have mudrooms because you don't wanna track in all that stuff into the house, so you go there and you take your shoes off and. You know, your raincoat and you go into the house, so San Francisco, Bay Area would have it too. But all the East Coast, Massachusetts and North, everyone has a mudroom, but they also double as a. What they call it, an airlock. So you open the front door and there's air following you in, right? But then there's no other exit and there's a door that you're gonna eventually go through to get into the main house. So then you shut the outside door, no more wind comes in, then you go in from the inner door and you don't let all that outside air in. So it not only keeps your house cleaner, but it's really saves energy because it's, you know, not letting all that cold air into the house or the hot air out. So those are really good ideas. We don't do them here because, you know, the weather's so good, we don't really need to, but if you live in North County, it does get cold enough, it might be something you want to do. Or if you guys move, you know, you're all gonna get married probably and go do things, go jobs in other parts, get a great job in another part of the country, you might be in snow country before you know it.
Comfort from the internal and external
You
environment.
might marry someone that forces you out of Santa Barbara into some cold, miserable place on the Great Lakes. Try it for a while, then
That's-
demand to
And
come back.
reduces the amount of heat loss during winter.
Oh, bingo. God, so many YouTubes now. It's really great. Okay, let's take a break. We've got, and then we'll do, then we'll look at the book. We'll finish off. We'll look at the book and Fuller Electrical.
Just ending it?
No, don't end it.
You don't wanna keep going
Oh,
for the break?
no, keep it going. Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
going.
I think I used to break it, then I would get in all kinds of trouble doing that. So, yeah, thanks.
Like,
Simon.
wait, please, Brita. So I need to come to school to get you some water.
Yeah.
Bye.
No, todavía no. Ahorita ando trabajando debajo de la mesa. Vamos a estar pintando. So, I know not the trades, it's one of the trades.
Sorry, what?
I'm learning painting now. We're doing a museum.
How long is it gonna be?
Oh,
So,
oh, yeah, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah.
Painters. People are lost things. In the light, construction, you can see, yeah, that's what hang walls, yeah. What the process, from everything, the building, yeah, because we will have change a bunch of frames, like for windows, the window framing. So there's something that are rotten, and we've solved that already, so. I'm learning a little bit of everything, you know? Yeah. My mind open to start, yeah. Learning how to do like the paint gun, everything, like that. But I haven't returned yet. They want me to return. But I don't know if I'm gonna return till November or not. Right now, I'm okay working, but like after like 4 days or 5 days of me standing on that foot, it hurts. Like it's still don't have all the strength back there. But I've been hiking and stuff like that too, so I'm just trying to build the strength back just to get back, you know? That's it. Yeah. Painting is a little tight. Yeah, and it's easy to wait out. Yeah, and yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of my friends that has his own company, you know, it's very nice paint. So he told me like, hey man, I have people that don't show up to work, hey, I'm hungry, you know, and I want to learn too, so. Yeah. You're gonna be, and it's not where I'm gonna stay, you know, just, you know, like, I'll help you out, I need help, but. Trying to become an electrician, I'm not trying to. Take it, you know, but I'll pick it up and I'll help you out wherever I can, you know.
When you start a trade, like electrical, they start, most of the people start, like, they go and they. But it's worth it, because you're learning where you get paid,
Yeah,
learning a lot. In the company, so. I just mentioned, like, in my mind, like, that depends on the, you know, pay attention, they're only, but they mostly do residential, and they want to go and then probably a bit more money there, but it's only residential. So, but I'm working with the residential to make it in both. So it's, more you know, why it is. What I hear is, okay, probably after 6 months, I'll be on the area. And I hear from electricians, from YouTubers, they say, so as an apprentice, start very farm, when you start with the ways you're working, and it's not like, I'm going from $18 to 25 in 6 months, no. We'll probably from 18 to 20 in 10 months, and probably in 6 months, 21, 22. Then so as you get more hours, experience working, and then swim. Never mind. Oh.
but I'll apply to a couple places and they've interviewed me, so, yeah, we're not gonna say anything, you know, we're gonna wait till you're here, we're gonna bring you on, so, we're gonna wait till you're here, so. That's what we need, to next year, you know, like that injury, send me back, you know.
Alright, the how I started on the woman. It's about 18 years. It's really,
Stuff, man, digging of the gold, I worked for, US Plumbing. And, they were dropping off the Montecito, like, there's no way, follow the pipe, we mark the floor, that's where you're gonna dig. As soon as you get down like 3 or 4 feet, don't dig so hard, in that Montecito terrain, everything like you got, bunch of trees, the roots going everywhere, it's just tough, like mountain. You're digging in the mountain, it's just tough, and then, I didn't mind it, but the owner was such a fucking dick. You know, I couldn't get along with him for it. Like, there's a difference between like telling me what to do and fucking yelling at me, you know? So, I don't like that. Keep on hanging up this event. Probably not recon, you think so? Awful. Are you guys drafting those or?
What time
Are you guys drafting those or?
Yeah, Tim, this is all Tim's doing. He's gonna put these all the way around, so each crew, you know, like did you have the roof framing class?
I don't have the roof frame class, I have, I think, 110 with him. So
When you
yes,
did the roof frame, they did the little roofs in here.
in here, or I think it was the next room, wasn't it?
No. I used to do it out in patio,
Oh.
a big roof. But he does little roofs, you know, he'll do a gable and a hip together. And these are gonna be like, you know, for each group.
Like the cubbies there.
Yeah, they'll be their stuff though. Yeah, and then you'll know what's missing too. And they'll have it all there, they don't have to go look for it anymore, so. That's not the way I do it. He was a shop teacher for a long time, so he's
Yeah,
really organized that way. And it doesn't matter what I think about it because he's now boss.
yeah, he's taking over.
Yeah, so I just support whatever he does. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Do you have him for anything?
I started on the the electric and plumbing. So I've done his electric plumbing, I did.
Those are the 4 unit ones though, right?
I believe
4
so.
week, I mean,
Yeah, I did that, I did,
but Tim didn't teach that though, right?
yeah, he did. He even had forget his name, but he had an electrician here with him who was helping
That
out.
wasn't part of 110,
No, it wasn't part of one time.
really?
It was its own class.
Hmm.
Then I did that one during the summer. We did blueprint reading. And now I'm doing 110. I'm doing 110 and doing this class.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm just kind of bummed. You guys don't have an electrician class.
You know, we had not a, electrical not training.
Yeah.
Because, when I first started this, I wanted to have all these portable classrooms, and I do electrical in one and plumbing, tile.
Yeah.
And then everybody else took them. They said, you can't have all those, you can have 2. So I never had the room to do anything more than carpentry.
Yeah.
So we do we do a little bit of electrical and plumbing in the 110.
Yeah.
And then we do those non-credit classes, like 4 weeks of electrical or.
Yeah, because the class that we were in was I think 8 weeks. Or no, I think it was 10 weeks, 10 weeks of electrical and 6 weeks of plumbing. And we built our own walls. We built our own walls. We ran
Here?
Yeah, right here outside. He has bays.
Yeah.
We hung them up. We ran wire through them. And then
What class was that? Not 111, right? It could have been 111, because that's the one that's after 110. And it's got a lot of other trades. Did you do any other trades?
not just
sheetrock.
plumbing and electrical.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't recall. I'll ask him on Saturday because I got him before I got your class. So I'll ask him when I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But I don't recall. It's like halfway through the class, I tore my Achilles.
Your Achilles?
Yeah,
Really?
so I'm still recovering. Yeah,
There's a football player just pulled it, right?
yeah, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, it's fun.
So is it the same thing? You pulled it? I mean, you can't walk on it for a while, can you?
Like we had just finished our electrical and we were in the first week of the plumbing.
Yeah.
And I tore it at Santa Barbara High School. We're playing basketball and it snapped on me.
So you had to be in crutches, right?
I couldn't even walk. They
Yeah.
did surgery after 2 weeks, and then after that surgery, I was in bed for a month and a half.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
here that's a bad one because
Oh yeah,
it's so critical. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You need it for everything.
yeah. I mean, it was just more of a mental thing than anything, you know.
So it's coming along okay?
Oh
Get
yeah,
it?
I'm just like I'm ahead of everything, but I've been pushing it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit down and
That's hard.
you can tell me I need to wait 6 months before I can. I went hiking before I came here.
Yeah.
But I think I'm at 4 months.
Hmm.
But I'm just careful if it hurts.
Yeah.
I won't do it. But I don't really feel pain. It's just more just,
Really?
yeah. I mean,
Huh.
the only painful part about it was looking at the surgery.
Yeah.
First
But you
couple
just can't. It's not real painful, but you just can't walk on it. It won't work, right? It won't function.
It won't work. What was painful was after being off of the legs for so long,
Yeah.
they turned into like baby feet. So like
And your whole leg's
couldn't-
probably a little
yeah,
weak, right?
all my muscles left.
Yeah.
And I went from being very.
Oh, they'll come back. You're young enough.
Oh, yeah.
If it was my age, they take a long time to come back. Yeah.
It's like a mental game.
Hmm.
A lot of times.
Yeah, well, that's too bad, but
But I mean, it gave me time to go to school, you know?
yeah.
I mean, I was already going to school, but it just freed up my day a whole lot more, so.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the way things work, you know? Bounce off of one thing and into another. Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, football. They get a lot of injuries there. I just saw this show on what they've been trying to do in the last 5-10 years to make it safer.
but all the equipment that they add just makes it more dangerous.
Well,
Notice,
well, the
if you're
equipment, but
rugby
they,
without
but they
equipment,
also have rules, you know, like like you can't get it in a, I guess it's a kickoff. You can't get within 5 yards of the receiver until he gets the ball. So you can't have a running, you know, smash him when he gets
But
it.
either way, though, those kickoffs are the most dangerous part of it.
Yeah, I know, that's why they did that, yeah.
Because they're running
Yeah,
full
it's basically
speed.
almost.
Yeah.
And you're
So that's why they
running
did that. Now you can't do it until,
Uh,
you have to be 5 yards away when he actually catches the ball. So you have to stop if you're,
Yeah, I mean, it's this whole thing is.
to prevent that, yeah. I mean, it's a weird, it's a different game, but it won't be a good game if people keep getting as hurt as they are, you know? I think it's a great game. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I love it too. It's my first love. You know?
Yeah,
I played for Santa Barbara. Yeah, so.
yeah, it's a great game. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's so strategic and interesting,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think they'll figure out ways to make it, you know, a lot better. I don't know.
You think they're gonna change their
Yeah,
field
I've heard
to
that.
grass
Yeah, they
after the Aaron Rodgers incident?
Oh, yeah, now the grass issue, yeah, that's right.
That turf,
Yeah.
ain't healthy,
I don't
man.
remember
Like,
that.
you tear stuff and even when you fall.
I
They
know
always complain about it. They've always complained about
It hurts. Like,
it.
we played at the CC field. And even the rug burns, it's like,
Yeah.
it hurts.
Yeah.
It's rolling on the ground.
What's your-
Yeah.
You walk in-
So it's just safer. You won't slip as much. Is that why they?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers got hurt, I guess,
And he was on real turf, right? But
Yeah.
what did he slip? Was it because he slipped
Like
maybe?
that, you can make planting got
Yeah.
stuck in the turf.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
then you got like this 300 pound lineman.
So the artificial turf, you
Oh,
can't
man,
make
They
dents,
blame it on that, they blame it on the turf, so.
I mean,
but you can scratch yourself. Everybody has to be wearing long sleeves now.
Honestly,
It hurts. It hurts, yeah.
Well, it's funny, like when they, on the kickoffs, it's just so funny to watch that, you know, it's so different.
They stop before then now?
Yeah, and you know, I mean, they used to bring them on the kickoff, the end zone, they
Yeah.
bring it back, what do they call it, a touchback? They bring it back to the 20.
And, I mean, I thought they're chill. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a 30 now, I think, yeah. I know, all of a sudden, I hadn't paid attention for a few years, I was going, whoa, that's.
They're talking about taking takeoffs.
Yeah.
Meaning like that's where
they
people get injured.
basically tell.
But it's so much fun to watch a kickoff, watch a guy, you know, break through.
You try that once, not
The preseason?
No, was it
I
preseason?
think it was preseason.
Yeah, I think they did, right, they, no kickoffs. So they just-
Oh, wow, oh, yeah, so they wouldn't injure ahead of time.
Just start.
Oh, that's smart, huh?
I think they tried it. Wasn't exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's smart. I know that, you can tell when you watch those games that they,
Maybe after a score during quarters, you know, but
Yeah.
leave it in the beginning and leave it at halftime.
yeah, really.
And there was a game where, the Seahawks played the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And when you got hit so hard, right after the next round.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like there is.
The Seahawks are a funny team. I like them because I went to SC, so I like the coach. But Carroll, yeah, Pete Carroll, but they're an uneven team, but they're doing good though.
Patrick, you should.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah, I went to, my senior year was the year OJ was there. So he was the best to watch. I mean, you go to the games and you were just ecstatic because he was so good. And then they had to go and do that stuff, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had great football, but you know, then when they stopped them paying their players and you know, recruiting illegally.
Yeah, scandal with Reggie Bush.
Yeah, he's trying to get his Heisman back, right? I think that is. I think that is. It's crazy. You know, he earned it. You know. I mean, you know. I mean, he's been punished enough, and you just want to, you know, stop people from doing it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
That was a big issue.
Yeah. Okay, where is everybody? They're probably just outside the door. We yell out. You know how it goes?
But yeah, come check it out.
Okay, everybody. Yeah, I told you they're right up there by the truck. I can't blame them.
Que no se van a clavar las patas también porque le damos rayos también al pato. Tienes que tirar para atrás a los
Dishwasher for like, not.
So everybody get out their text. Last text. And we'll go to 251, page 251. I know you all drive the book. Because your content is good.
I wish I was a video. It's very classic, but not a nice thing. It's gonna fall in my line.
Okay, so turn to page 254 and zip it. 254 in your text. You have your text, Louis?
No, I forgot it.
Bad boy. Well, see if you can sit with Elias or somebody. If you don't have your text, you got your text tonight, just sit with someone who has it. Yeah, I know. On the wall.
What page you said?
254. You guys have books? Who doesn't have their book here? Which one of you doesn't have it? Yeah, well, you came late, so that's okay. Are you getting one? Okay. And you have yours?
One,
That one?
two, three.
Oh, yeah. Okay, 254. There's a thing called a batch heater. Remember I was telling you about, they used to make solar hot water and they just hand make them, home make them. This is like a industrial version. And it's got a holding tank on top. Why is the holding tank on top? Because heat rises, so the warm, once the water is heated in the lower part, then it rises up to the upper part. Good going. So then they've got a solar tank. Sometimes they have a holding tank that's separate from the hot water. And if there's not enough sunlight, it's been particularly cold or cloudy, it doesn't heat up enough, say for all their needs, and they have an auxiliary hot water tank that supplements it, but it's not used very much. So that's usually the setup. We like to have that hot water. So, and then go to page 256 and 257, and you'll see the top panels look different than the next layer. So the top panels are heat, solar hot water, and the bottom ones are photovoltaic, solar electrical. This is like a demonstration house where they have a little bit of everything.
I have that.
Then on page 260, we've got a batch heater on a balcony, is one way to do it. And one of the Saturdays, not this one because we're not here, but we'll go up and look at the solar. We've got solar array on the roof that.
Okay, question, do you have solar panels at your home?
I'm sorry, what?
You have solar panels at your home?
Yes, I have PV on 2 roofs. So usually they say, we'll talk about this in a minute because it's in the handout. But usually they say your solar electrical panels should face south. And be tilted up a little bit depending on what latitude you are. Sun's at different places where you are. But it's not true. They're most efficient south. And tilted at the latitude, but there's a lot of variation where you get 80 to 100% somewhere in there. By going off of south all the way to south by southeast or south by southwest, which is a quarter of the way around, and with a different tilt. And we're gonna show you what that is, but a lot of people think, oh, they gotta be south. So I have south facing because my front roof, and we'll look at that when we go there, is facing south. But it's a limited roof, and we were thinking about getting an electrical car, so we needed more electricity to charge it. We ended up not getting one, but so we put in some panels and there wasn't any more roof, so I put them on a north roof, north. And I said, and I knew the guys, they helped me. We used to teach electrical stuff. That whole patio area was originally set up for that. And Sun Pacific helped me with it, so I know those guys. And they said, oh, no, you just will get 85% rather than 100%. And I said, that's fine, we have no more room. So I have one set on the north side. Now, these are not really steep roofs, maybe 312. So you're almost flat, so that helps too. If it was steep, then you'd be losing a lot more. But in fact, I made a little solar thing out there. Tim keeps covering it up, but it's on wheels and it has a little solar panel in it, and I can prop it up and I can turn it. And I've got electrical devices that measure the insulation, and I could show you how to turn it, how the percentage doesn't go down that much. You can really turn it away from south. I made it a really cool thing. That's too bad.
That's what that thing is.
That's it. Yeah, he'll probably end up getting rid of it. But there's a time, I thought it was important to train people to get them to go into the solar industry. And it turned out they didn't need them. So we did 1 or 2 classes and then nobody would enroll. Yeah.
What kind of maintenance goes into the solar panel?
What kind of what?
Maintenance, you need to keep them out, or do you do any maintenance on them?
Yeah, you need to wash them off once in a while if you're in an area where dust collects. But if it rains a lot, you don't even need to do that. But that's about it, not much else. But you can imagine if we get a layer of dirt on there, it won't let the sun through. I'm sorry, what? Oh, no, we left it on. Thanks for reminding me. What is this thing here? There's always something, I don't think it was interfering, but I didn't like him though. So they have a lot of different, they've been going crazy with solar, not just because of global warming, but the interest in solar started before global warming became an issue. They just wanted to make, more efficient electricity. So they've done a lot in the years. If you turn to page 271, it shows this old New England barn-like house, and they actually use a tile. The roof tile is actually photovoltaic. There's not even a raised on top of it, just the whole roof is PV, little PV things. And then they have transparent things like overhangs. The airports are using them, where they have PV in it doesn't, you can still see through it. So you can see the sky and stuff, but it's still collecting. So they've been doing a lot of experimenting with cells that'll take sun from any direction. They don't need to even be oriented, which is really a boon, because then nobody had an excuse not to have them. So, and they're cranking them out. China was the first one we're starting to take up. I won't talk about the mounting, because one Saturday when we're here, we'll go up and look at, I'll show you the mounting we did up there. But most of, I could teach, I went and got a certificate for a company that certified people to do photovoltaic work. But I didn't have an electrical license. You still have to have an electrician turn it on, do the last connection, but you can do everything else just by getting training. So I got the training and I had a company help me, and we set up wiring booths to practice, and then we put the panel up on top. But there just wasn't interest. We couldn't keep a class filled. And, you know, since then I found out that most of the companies like to train their own people, so they don't care if they don't know anything, they'll just train them from them, so that's often the way it happens, you know. So that's okay, if that works, I don't need to. Part of my job to do all that, but. So go to your handout. Okay, so you're gonna learn a little bit about this, you may never use it, but I think. In the world today, fighting global warming and solar being a big thing, you should know a little bit of stuff about it, okay? And who's ever talking should not talking anymore. So look at the bottom of this first page. It's got a panel. And it's tilted. It's tilted two ways. It's tilted up from flat. And that's called a tilt angle. It's tilted. And it's also rotated north and south. That's called the azimuth angle. And those are the two tilts you have. They started doing electrical, hooking them up with electrical motors so that they would turn with the sun. And they would always be at a maximum angle. But those are expensive and you have to maintain them and they go bad. And for most residential areas, it's way too much. But if you have big arrays, you know, on land, sometimes they'll do that. But look at the back of that first page. And it's a table. And it says Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the tilt angle has to do with the latitude you're at because that's where the sun is in relation to the earth. The more north you are, you're getting less sun, and so you have to tilt it slightly differently. But what they found out was that if you tilt it, even with your latitude, it just turned out where in the United States, like say Albuquerque is 35 degrees latitude. If you tilt it at 35, that's a pretty good tilt. Santa Barbara is 34 degrees, so they didn't have Santa Barbara, so I put Albuquerque. Same thing. But look at the first set of data, solar radiation filter, flat plate collectors, that's a regular collector, facing south at a fixed tilt. Okay, that's your initial setup. And look at latitude, is if you just put it, say it's your latitude 34 in Santa Barbara, if you put it 34 degrees off of horizontal, you will get, let's see the average, 55.3. It's a measurement of solar power, so we don't need to go into that. We'll just compare them. And let's see. Well, let's just take 1 month. Let's take January. The average is 5.3, and if you go plus 15 degrees, in other words, you raise it from 34 to what's 15 and 34, 49 degrees. You're going to get 5.8. Actually, you're going to get more average in January in the winter. And let's go to June. June latitude, you get 7.1, and latitude plus 3, you get 6.1. So in summer you get less, and winter you get more. So it's close. It turns out that if you take 35 minus, it's the same. It's about the same if you subtract 15 from the latitude. If you subtract 15 degrees from 35, you get what, 20? And it turns out that 20 is like a 6.5 roof. No, a 5.12 roof is 22 degrees. A 4.12 roof, which is even more common in Santa Barbara, is 18 degrees. So if you take the 34 and you subtract 15, 34 is our latitude, subtract 15, that means you can put an array on a 4.12 roof and not have to have an infrastructure. It can be parallel to the roof. You can just put it right even with the roof. So we just lucked out. It's not that way everywhere, but Santa Barbara, we could get pretty optimal sun putting it parallel with the roof, just on little, things, which we'll see. In other places, you have to have an infrastructure that kind of jacks it up from the roof a little bit, and it looks like crap then too, right? But we can just put them a few inches off, and you can hardly see them. It's really, we're lucky that way. So this is how you figure that out. You can, when you want to figure out the optimum tilt, you look at a chart like this. You find the place of latitude you have, You can get one with Santa Barbara if you get more detailed, bunch of tables.
Is
Okay.
this data collected by the solar company?
You know, I think the government may collect some of that data. The government does a lot of data collecting that you wouldn't know what they were doing it for. They just have always done it. I mean, they have tons of data. I can find that out. Robin, I don't know, but I would imagine it might be a government agency that does that. Okay, now go to the next page. Yeah. Now, there's basically two types of solar connections. And especially if you have a residence. This first one on the top is called a utility interactive. And all that means is that you're plugged into the grid, your regular grid, like everybody's plugged into the grid now, right, in their house. You have stuff comes to service entrance and goes to your panel. What happens with this kind of system, and this is what's allowed solar to bloom and really happen, is that at night, solar, there's no sun, right? So you wouldn't collect any electricity at night. And then late afternoon, it started getting dark, the solar is not good. So at that time, you use any extra solar you have during the day, you pump into the grids, into the power system that everyone's using. And then at night, you take back from the grid, just like you're doing without solar. So you can go 24 hours with a solar thing and use the grid as kind of a battery system, a backup system for you. So that allowed everybody to do that, because no one's going to do it if they can't get solar at night. You can't get electricity at night. Who would want that? So the grid interaction, connecting to the grid, allows us to do that. Now, solar there's two types of electricity, DC and AC. You've heard that, right? Probably most of you. AC is alternating current, and it's what's in these outlets here. It's what they serve industry and residences. Only Elias, I think, could explain what the difference is physically, but we won't go into it. But DC is direct current, and it won't work on these. But if you have like a little battery powered something that might be DC, camping equipment and what do you call it? Recreation vehicles often had DC things in it because they just had a battery and it was direct current. You didn't need a bigger power source. But you can't run AC appliances on DC. So you have this machine that converts the DC from the roof off the panel to the AC that you can use. And originally they were only about 60% efficient. So you lose 40% of electricity in converting it. But they kept working on it. Now it's like above 95. So you basically don't lose any electricity converting from DC to AC. Now, there are times when you might want DC. You might have some DC appliances. If you live in the country, sometimes people do. And you can do hybrid systems that do both. There's a whole bunch of combinations, but we're mostly interested in a grid interactive, utility interactive system. It comes off the roof. You can see here on 106. It goes into this thing called an inverter. And we have one out there. I'll show you when we do it. And that inverter changes that DC to AC, and then they feed it right into your utility box. And then you can use it, just like it was electricity from the grid. And what you don't use goes into the grid, and you get credit for that. They didn't want to give it. Europe always gave credit for it, and full value credit. We didn't give credit at first, stingy as our companies are. And people got pissed and they said, we're feeding back electricity. We want money for it. And so now they give you the lowest rate, no matter when you feed it back, they'll give you back the lowest rate, which is kind of crappy, but at least you're getting something back. So, and some people actually were, like in Montecito, they had big estates, so they had big land, a lot of land, and they would put grids there, and they would sell it to, like they were making money by selling it back to the electrical company. Electrical companies finally put some restrictions on it and said, wait, we can't do this. You'll bankrupt us if you keep doing this. So there's some restriction on that, but then go to the next page, which is 105, and that's called a standalone system. And that's if you're in the country and you're not by a grid. Okay, so what do you think you have to do to get electricity at night? if you're not near a grid and you've got and you're powered by a solar system. What?
Hamster wheel?
Huh?
Turn the hamster wheel? Start turning the hamster wheel?
What'd you say?
Generator.
Battery. Battery, right? So all standalone systems are battery systems. You know, you hear the Tesla wall, that's where that comes from, but that's relatively recent. Before it was just a bank of, you go out and get a whole bunch of, you know, lead batteries before lithium. In fact, I've got a bunch under the tiny home. We were gonna use them in the tiny home. The people said, don't get lithium, because at the time I bought them, there was still some controversy about whether they would catch fire. So I bought lead. They said, we recommend lead. They're so heavy. Oh, as an old man, it killed me lifting up to like 150 pounds a piece. Yeah.
Have you seen, like near Costco and Home Depot, they have like huge Tesla mega packs now that they're putting down like huge batteries,
Yeah.
like commercial grade batteries.
Yeah. Well, I guess the fear over it's gone, you know, it's like hydrogen in cars, you know, we finally figured out it wasn't such a big deal. But, yeah, so you need batteries, and you have to have the size array, which is the amount of solar panels and the amount of batteries to make sure your lifestyle is satisfied with electricity. There's a whole calculation you do with all the appliances you use, the time you use, and everything. People in the country have to do this, or their solar people have to do it. And then they size the system so that you won't run out of electricity. So it goes from on 105 here, it goes from the array is what it's called. They're not called panels. The array is the whole group. Goes from the array to a charge controller, and it goes to this charge controller because you can't just pump any DC electricity into a battery. Battery's got a very specific configuration, and the solar panels vary in the kind of electricity they produce. It kind of varies, and it wouldn't be compatible. So they have this charge controller which makes it into the form that the battery takes. So you need one of those, and then it goes from the battery, and then it's still DC, right? And if you have use for DC, you can use it at that point, but otherwise it goes to the battery and stored, because at night you don't have it running. And then of course if you have AC appliances, you have to run it through an inverter, like a grid tied system. So you need that extra charge controller as well as an inverter to make that work.
Is one battery usually, like, it's what size of battery, I'm sure, but like, is one battery enough?
No, for this tiny home, we have like 10 and big, giant, heavy.
I mean, it depends how big, right?
It depends on your use, you know?
I mean,
but-
one Tesla battery is enough for an average Barbara.
Yeah, now they're giving you these compact units, you know, and they're designed for an average middle class electrical use.
Mhm.
And so if you thought you were normal, there's probably criteria. You can do a little bit of math. They probably have a form where you can figure out what you need. And if it's gonna be enough, you might have to get 2 of them or whatever. You know. But yeah, you don't wanna get stuck without it, but that's how that works. Okay, we're getting close. Now this part, here comes the chemistry, or I guess we call it physics. Because every carpenter should know some physics, right? Okay, so I put these pages. I wasted my own color. They didn't have a color copy at school, so I spent my own color, what do you call it stuff? Ink for you guys. And I put them on here so you can look at both pages at once, because that's important. So look on the top of the first page. There's a little electrical cell, and they're only about this big. And then they wire the cells into a module. Instead of panels, we used to call them panels, but they're really technically called modules. So the panel, the 6 foot long, 4 foot wide, that we have a bunch of them up on the roof. That's called a module. And then the whole series of modules is called an array. So that's the terminology you need to use in that industry if you're talking about that. If you say panel, everyone will understand you mean a module anyway, but still. This is a school, right? So you get educated. So this is ingenious how this works. And some guy discovered it in the late 1800s, some physicist, when electricity was really being discovered. And then Einstein put an equation to it. So it's really, he sort of finished it off. One of his early papers was about photoelectric effect. So it means that the sun rays can be looked at a lot of different ways, right? Physicists still are kind of ambiguous about what they are, but one way to look at them is the little particles that are made in the sun, and they travel 186,000 miles to Earth. I've got a film on how these particles are made, that if we have any time on a Saturday, I'll show you. It's a mind-blowing nova thing of how the sun makes these particles. It'll blow your mind, guaranteed. They take 10,000 years from when they're created in the center of the sun to get to the outer surface of the sun. 10,000 years. These little things bouncing into one another. It's unbelievable. And then it takes about 8 minutes to get from the surface of Earth. So, but so they discovered, the physicists discovered that if sunlight hits a metal, it creates a current. It pops off electrons and it creates a current. So they discovered this pretty early on because they were always fooling with stuff, right? And they left stuff on the sun. All of a sudden they realized, hey, there's a current. What's this coming from? Well, the sunlight's doing it. So what happens is they have look at the left page, 116. It's got those little circles, that little section. That's a section of a solar cell. And it's got silicon. You've heard that solar silicon made out of silicon, right? So that's an element, sand. But within all those silicons, there's two types. There's a p-type and n-type. In the p-type, there's a boron chemical. And the difference is from the silicon is that it's missing an electron. So it has a void where there should be an electron. So it's looking for electrons. This is what do they call it? Elias, are you a chemist?
No.
No. But it's just the way
What was the question?
you know, when an electron is unstable, it needs an electron to stabilize, or it doesn't. What do they call that branch of?
Ion?
Yeah, it's like ions, but I'm just thinking about the branch of knowledge.
Oh.
Anyway, it's like chemistry, but anyway, so they have one layer that has silicon, and every once in a while it's got this boron atom that's missing an electron. So it's looking for electrons. If an electron went by, it would grab it to fill out its electron shell. Then on the plate underneath, separated from it, there's an n-type layer, and it's got the same kind of spotty phosphorus atom, different chemical. That phosphorus atom has an extra electron, so it's real unstable. Any chance it gets it, lets go of that electron. So the sun comes, hits that p layer, knocks off that electron, and the electron then wants to go to that phosphorus electron void in the other layer, right? But the layers are separated, so guess what happens? It goes from knocks off the electron on the phosphorus, and it goes all the way around the circuit, your electrical circuit, powers whatever you're doing, comes back, and then joins that other electron. It's looking for it, and they can see it miles away. And so it creates a current going to that. Who discovered this stuff? I don't know. Scientists are nuts. They're so smart. But that's all they had to do. So they have two layers, and the second page shows the two layers. So and then it shows the cell and the connection to the load and the flow. So that's all it does. We figured out we can make these. They make these crystals, the silicon crystals, and that's a whole beautiful thing in itself. These crystals, they're just gorgeous. They make those, and I forget what they call the process. They just dump a little bit of, on one side they dump a little bit of boron, on the other side they dump phosphorus. They spot it, and it creates electricity. It's amazing. Okay. Let me see what else is necessary. Okay. One more set of slides, okay? Then we'll go. So there's a company, you've heard of Habitat for Humanity? Some of you, all of you? So they're a philanthropic, they're a charity like, and I guess you'd classify it a nonprofit, and they help people, low income people build houses. And the trick is the low income people have to work on the house that they're building. They have a certain amount of sweat equity that they're obligated to do. So it's a great setup. We've got several housing complexes, I guess you call it. There's one on Milpas and Canon Perdido. That's that. And all the people help build it. It's a great thing. It's allowing a lot of low-income people to have housing. So there's another company that came on the back of that about 10 or 15 years ago called oh damn, what's the name of that? Grid Alternatives. Grid, electricity, alternative to the grid. What do you suppose that is? Low income, help with low income houses to get solar panels. So when I was doing the solar class, I took my class. We actually enrolled in a grid alternatives class and went to Santa Maria and helped a family put a solar panel on the roof. It's really great experience. They do that. It's really good company. But let me just let me see if I can fill this up with any luck. Oh, okay. I'm on the wrong end of the slideshow. I want to show you this too. So what did I say was a cheaper way of heating water than electrical heat? Solar heat, right? We talked about the solar panels that run water in them. So they make some for pools. These companies have made some, and they're not metal pipes like the old ones. They're kind of a plastic thing. They're kind of a webbing. I'm going to show you that. There's a pool. We may go to it. It's near UCSB. It's near we're going to go to Home Depot at one point. Look at some stuff there. And right near there, Stork Ranch Development. Their whole pool area has arrays on the pergolas that heat the whole pool in a hot tub. It's really great. And then this guy, I'm trying to get our development to do it. And so I had the guy out, Max Solar, and he did this project. It's off of Mission and Alomar. That's what this picture is. But you can see those little, it's like plastic. It's not really. It's like plastic tubing. There's a bunch of tubing coming down, and there's a manifold. You see that? And they can put these on in a public place like a condominium. They can't put a cover. Any place that isn't a residence or a family uses their own pool, you can't put a cover because children can get caught in the cover, and it's against the health department won't allow it. So when you heat a pool, it just evaporates. The heat just goes up. I mean, it's expensive to heat a pool, even with the price of gas being low. So these things are so great because you don't need to cover them because your heating's free. It's solar. So you can get a better view of these here, but it's not bad. They just have a little pergola or a walkway, and you put it on, and then you can heat. We'll go see the one on Stork Ranch. I might have pictures of it. No, it's really incredible though. Here's the side thing. So this is a small pool, but Stork Ranch has got a huge pool. Oh yeah, here it is. They've got a pergola like this, and you can see the solar hot water pipes from below, and they've got grapevines growing on it and stuff. See if I have a better picture. And they've hidden all the pipes behind the wood. They did a great job. You can see they've got on this side, there's a pergola, and there's one this way. It's like an L, and they heat their whole pool and 2 jacuzzis with this. And once you install it, I mean, I'm sure it's got a lifespan. You have to replace it at some point. But there's the pool. That's pretty good size, huh? That's all solar up there, and then there's an L that comes this way. And this is when I did the thing here. This is what we had. We had an inverter and we had wiring stations. That's the thing I told you about that I move around with the angle. See, it's like that. So on this side, I got a whole bunch of electrical, you know, things to tell me what the electricity, yeah, see that stuff. God, that wasn't easy to figure out either.
How'd you do it?
A lot of luck. So this is the array. We're gonna go up and see this in person. But I couldn't put it on the roof because these roofs, because they moved these in 3 parts, these roofs aren't very strong. You know, there's no, you can see there's no support in the middle. So they said, you can't put the array up here. So I had to build, when we built the patio roof, another class project, we built up an area and put a plywood and a strong thing on it. So this is actually part of the patio roof rather than part of the, here's the regular roof of the classroom. There's a stairway. We'll go up the stairway and then you can come, you can see it. And we got a, this is a flat roof, so we had to put a standard tilt. But it's pretty easy. Once you figure out how to put the supports on, you know, these things, you have to make sure they're, and then the electrical is pretty easy. It's not a complicated thing, really. Oh, and so here's the grid alternative. And they have to be really safely because they're having volunteers work with them and their families around. So they have all this extra support. You know, most of us wouldn't put this kind of stuff on to work on a roof. We'd be in and out of there. But they have to do it. So this is a class. And we're up there measuring where to put it. And then we get the measurements, we put these basic things on. Then we put the rails on. Then we put the box, electrical box, then we cut bend some of the conduit. Run the wire to those before we put the panels, which would be in the way. That's called a microinverter. Sometimes the inverters are on the panels themselves, and then you get AC from the roof. There's controversy about whether these are better than the box kind we have that's for the whole roof. This was one day. Got enough people, huh? So this is a class. And see that trailer, they pull up with a trailer with all their stuff. They have a lot of safety gear. They came to class, they give you a demonstration first, they tell you all the safety stuff. They tell you what you're gonna do, what tools. It's really seamless. I mean, I have to hand to this organization. And these people who otherwise couldn't afford solar arrays got their house for free. You know, they helped with it. It's in Santa Maria. It's a good deal. And these guys go up and down I don't know if they're national. I know they're California. They go up and down the coast. And you can go do it. They don't charge you. You can volunteer and go do it and learn how to do this. I mean, it's really a good way to learn because they go through the whole thing to the finished product. So that'll really give you an overview of what goes on. Any questions? So what we have left that we're not going to do tonight is there's a thing on a company that makes these really spiffy solar hot water tubes. They started making these vacuum tubes. I mean, really, we don't need to see that. And then there's a thing I'll show you, but I won't show you tonight. When you get on the roof, the biggest problem with solar is being shaded, right? So if you have trees in the neighborhood, which everybody does practically, you want to make sure they're not going to shade the solar panels. So they have this 2 devices, and I've got both of them here, but I'll just show you the videos later. And they have this little it's a little bubble, and it sits on the roof. The roof slopes, it's got a little bean bag, sits on, you level it. And then you look at it, it shows the whole year of the trees are around. So you take a pencil and you outline where all the trees are, and that tells you for the whole year what's going to shade. It's ingenious. It's the most incredible thing. So then all you got to do is say, well, look, this tree's in the way. So if you just trim this back or get rid of it, we can keep all the rest, because they're not really in the way. And it's impossible to tell, because the sun's at different places and it's, you know, casting shadow different times of year. So that's a really, it's a really great device, and all solar people use it when they go to a house and they wanna know what's gonna impede what's gonna shade the solar panels. So we'll look at that, but we'll need to see that tonight. I'm saving up all these things. We'll have a Saturday and we'll come and maybe have a party and just look at videos and, yeah, great. Huh? Green videos. Everybody goes, oh, wow. Can't wait. Hey, you're getting credit, right? This may get your job someday. Or may determine your career. Some of you may want to go into sustainability or something. You know, we'll talk about this later, because we talk about the organizations that are involved and things you can do, but it's growing all the time because of global warming. So there's gonna be a million variations of what we're learning. If you're not just gonna do carpentry, which is also fun, that's what I did in my life. So. Okay, thanks for hanging in there. Listen, and thank you for, and I mean this, thank you for helping Carol and I with the things, even though we didn't finish. I'm not gonna make you do anymore. I told her that's it for us, you know. But I'm really glad 2 days was really generous of you. And I mean, for the beginners, I think you learn stuff. Some of you guys that have been in it longer, you might not learn that much, but anyway, now we'll just do field trips and some related stuff to what we're learning. Okay, Saturday, I expect to see everybody sick out here. The kids, the family are working. And I'm gonna come here from what, 1:30 to 10 to 2. For some reason, someone fills up here. Otherwise, go straight there. Yeah, go straight there by 2. Yeah. Thanks.
Later.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that's great. Good night, you guys.
Nice. Same one. Yeah.
Okay, bye, Robin.
See you tomorrow.
We're getting more science than they ever want to know, but they need to know some science.
Yeah.
You know? You can't be alive.
Yeah.
21st century and not know a lot of science.
Yeah, I have I installed a power wall at my parents-in-law.
That's the wall?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's very close to here. If you
Yeah.
want to bring the class.
Oh, yeah, actually, I'd like to do that.
Yeah, sure. We can
Okay,
do it
okay, let's work that out, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And then, I mean, I live right around the corner. I have I have a hybrid water heater if you want to see it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Oh, great, great.
yeah, so.
Yeah, I'm glad you volunteered.
Yeah,
Most people don't have a lot, you know, these guys are renting and blah,
Yeah.
blah. And they're students, you know,
yeah,
younger, so I'm glad when an older student or a mature student has some ideas, you know, because
yeah,
I can't keep up with stuff, you know, it's changing so fast, you know. I get on the internet and I do my best, but
yeah,
I mean, I have a broad picture, but little details change all the time.
that's true.
You know, they have we'll look at. Air vapor barrier is a big deal in northern climates, because you don't want to get, the dew point in the wall and.
Right,
And we used to put plastic, when I lived in Maine, Canadian ski down, so we had to put plastic, we'd.
but then you have the problem with moisture inside
No,
the house a lot of times.
no, it worked up
Yeah.
there,
Okay,
but now they have a machine, which I'm gonna show you guys. That Brissinger does, that contractor.
Mhm.
And it sprays. And you pressurize the house, so the air is trying to get out.
oh, yeah,
Then it takes this. I don't know what you call it, spray, and it fills all the cracks. on the
Yeah. Yeah.
It just ends that whole era right there.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm going, God, and he's the only other guy that's really thrilled about it. He goes, that's a game changer. I go, are you kidding me?
yeah, that's crazy, yeah,
Think of the labor you could save. You don't even have to know where anything is. You know, you have to find stuff when you're talking.
right.
In this way, you just turn the machine on and,
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to like the blower test,
yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
yeah,
So, So there's some things do change really radically, so,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, sure.
But I wish solar hot water was more because it's more efficient. Than,
Oh, for sure,
you
yeah.
know, electrical, although, you know, when you get heat pumps, they're so efficient that.
Yeah,
heat
one
pump,
thing,
You know, hot water heaters
Yeah.
are efficient
I
too.
mean, one thing I was hoping that I could do, but like I just found no way how to do it is like to use the cold, well, I could probably like just route the cold air into my house. Or like from the heat pump, water
Yeah.
heater,
Yeah,
but the thing is then like in the winter, it's just gonna blow cold air to my house.
well, maybe we could have some, you know, shut offs that do redirect the
Yeah,
season.
I just haven't found any like parts, like
Yeah, of
they're like super expensive, it's
Yeah.
like.
course,
Just for the inverter, I would pay like $350 and
yeah,
then RAM is.
because it's new, relatively new. In 20 years, when everybody's got it,
I know, like, it
No,
should be
hell
like,
no.
it's like. I was even thinking of should build one myself, like
Yeah.
out of wood or like even metal, like I can build some basic sheet metal stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Cause
Well, you know, the sheet metal industry's having a problem because nobody wants to be sheet metal, you know, tin knocker anymore.
yeah,
Everywhere you go, they're just, come on, we need some, and they should bring them back because, you
Yeah.
know, there's still a use for those people.
oh, for sure, yeah,
And it's not a bad trade, you know, for a lot of people, it doesn't take a lot of, you know, for people who don't have a lot of imagination or know a lot of math
Yeah.
or something, it's a pretty straightforward trade.
oh, for sure, yeah. The other crazy thing is, so like, I even looked at the, so you need adapters to like, that go onto the water
Yeah,
heater.
yeah.
$130 for one adapter,
Yeah.
and like, it's like a dumb piece of plastic.
Yeah,
If I had a big 3D printer, I would print it myself.
I know,
But I can check, but my printer is too small for that. I have a 3D
Yeah.
printer in my house, but
yeah.
yeah,
You know, I have a friend who was not too far from here who's a solar tube kind of disintegrated. He was gonna get a new one, and the only guy who does them in town, whom I know, charges a lot of money. And it's just ridiculous. And I said, well, let's go look and see if we can find some parts. I went to Home Depot and we found a thing that could come up and he got a dome. And he ended up just not wanting to do it, but we could have done it for like under $100.
Yeah.
I'm gonna charge like 1,000 to do it.
yeah, no, it's ridiculous. So,
So, yeah, you know, and a lot of times you can find stuff and kind of jury rig it, you know,
yeah, for sure.
especially if it's an area where.
But the thing is that like, that's the thing, like, I wish the like building code would be as strict, cause
Yeah, and then you could do stuff that wasn't consequential, but
yeah,
they're nuts about it for some weird reason.
yeah,
I know, I hear you.
yeah. I mean, I'm redoing right now, in an old house in like, downtown. And like, it's crazy how like rudimentary that thing was built. And
Yeah,
it still stands.
yeah,
Like there's nothing like it's the orange, like the old 2x3 studs.
yeah,
And there's not even 16 on center, the 24 on center.
yeah,
And then the roof rafters. They're just like cuts in
Yeah.
a couple pieces and stuff. I'm like, how does it still stand, you know?
I worked on a house in the, where was it, in the Mission area,
Yeah,
and it had a wall, a stone wall foundation
Yeah.
above ground, and the floor system was laid on that wall, just laid on it, and it had gone through the 32 earthquake or whenever that was,
yeah.
it had gone through earthquakes and everything, was still.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then the other thing is like, there's no like, it has like the siding is basically just tongue and groove siding, that's it.
Yeah,
There's no like.
they do a lot of that,
or
no,
nothing.
no inner side of the wall, just
Yeah.
from the outside.
Yes, it's literally just.
And-
one side
and
is
you can do that-
plaster and the-
You can do that here where it's mild, you know,
Yeah,
except if they're trying to really squeeze the energy, then you can't do that,
yeah,
but this guy's trying to do a thing, and you know, they're trying to get ADAs and things, because we don't have enough housing for people.
yeah,
And you'd think they'd make it easy,
yeah,
but, you know, I did a set of plans and I put form, because he didn't, and I put the existing walls, he's just moving a few walls, and the new ones, and I coded them a different color across that.
Yeah.
Which I know architects that do that, and the
yeah,
guy said, no, you need to do a separate, he told him, you need to do a separate, you know, now and later. I'm going, that's a bullshit. I
yeah,
said, he's been held up for so many stupid ass things. And
yeah.
you're not even building a house, you're just moving some walls, there's no structural difference.
Yeah, that's why like I stopped like drawing my own plans. Now I have, you know, Amy.
Von Trotz or not?
No,
She does like all
No.
ADUs here in town
Oh, yeah.
almost, like she's the ADU queen of the day. And she knows everybody in the building department and like they don't even care
Yeah.
what she files.
yeah, see, there you go, right?
Like they literally like just rubber stamp everything she brings in.
Well, that's what I was telling them, I said, if they learn to trust you.
Yeah,
Then they say, well, he's gonna do a good job, I'm not gonna screw up.
yeah,
And so, admitted, but my feeling is, if it's not life threatening, and that's pretty easy to tell,
Yeah.
a few borderline, mostly it's
Right.
easy. Let it go.
Yeah.
You know, God, it's making people so crazy to have
Yeah.
to do this stuff.
yeah, and then also it like. It increases house prices to build something,
yes.
like it's ridiculous, like.
Totally.
And I mean, like, rich people, they can afford it, they don't care.
Yeah.
But like, that like basically prices out the middle class out of like building houses.
Yeah,
Which is
totally.
crazy,
I know,
yeah,
they gotta, and it's bureaucracy. It's another type of bureaucracy, I mean, we're full of them, right, in
Yeah.
modern societies, and they're just horrible, they're just
Yeah.
one size fits all, they can't, there's no imagination, they can't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
yeah, I
we
mean,
shouldn't have them, but we just, that's just the way we got it set up, and we
Yeah.
can't seem to deviate from.
I
it.
mean, like, yeah, I mean, Santa Barbara though is like a far cry from like Santa Monica,
Or India. I've
Yeah.
made a lot of trips to India. They've got the British came and colonized them, and then when they left in Iraq.
oh my goodness.
And it's the worst.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, yeah, no, but in Santa Monica, I once got red tagged. But because I was taking down popcorn ceiling, and like it was literally like a little overhang
Yeah,
in the like in an entryway
so it
of.
wasn't even a whole room, right?
No, like it was literally like, it was an under $500 job, and I was like.
And they
like,
wanted to
it's
get the
lit-
whole,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was like, it's so ridiculous,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they need to really, I mean, I tell, because my students, I tell them, because a lot of them are in the industry. And I say, well, you gotta do what they say, but just realize it's pretty crazy,
yeah.
and,
And I mean, like, the thing is, like, here in town, a lot of, like, I have so many people that are like, oh, can you do it without a permit?
oh, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
that's what breeds that,
Yeah,
And I don't, I mean, as a teacher, I'm supposed to say do the law, but I don't. I say, if it's a small job and it's not, and there's no harm in it, it's not a dangerous situation. Use your own judgment on that.
yeah, literally,
If it's
yeah.
gonna hold you up a year and cost you $1,000 more, I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell them, people like, yeah, sure, I can do it, but like, we'll just we'll do older builder permits,
Exactly.
so then it's on that.
There's a lot of that. I do all my stuff that way too.
Yeah,
And there's a lot, I've done a lot of additions for friends. There's a lot of that in town, and that's why.
yeah,
And as long as they don't get too weird about that, and they don't, because it's the law, the owners can hire whoever they want to build it.
yeah,
It's getting inspected
yeah,
at the end, so,
right,
I mean, some of it, but. I mean, you can do it without inspecting, but even if you get it inspected,
yeah.
you're gonna make sure it's safe.
I mean, the funny thing though is like, cause I do a lot of work, like that goes through Amy Von Trotz, and I've never been inspected.
Yeah.
Like never, they just rubber stamp, but and sometimes I'm like, cause I've never had an inspector out on the job site that I'm working at, cause I'm
Yeah.
basically only doing ADUs.
Yeah,
And like, I'm like scared, like sometimes like, do I have to like, 'cause I mean, I'm always taking pictures, but I'm like, should I call in the inspector now or not? You know?
right. Nah, God, it's
Yeah.
pretty weird.
Yeah, it is, it's very.
Yeah, I mean, they gotta streamline that, because one thing, it slows everything up, and time is of the essence these days,
Yeah.
right? We've got too many people in the house, and we've got global warming breathing
Yeah.
on our backs. We can't waste time on little stupid stuff,
Yeah,
and they don't see that, they've been trained to do this. And the worst part is, they can't get enough people to do it, so they hire people that have taken a few classes in it. And
right,
they don't have a building background, so they can't translate anything. They can't say, oh, yeah, that's as good as that. They just say, oh, it's gotta be this, tear it out.
yeah,
And you wanna go, fuck you,
yeah. Yeah, no, literally, it's crazy,
Yeah.
yeah. Another thing that I like, kind of blew my mind is, so this is my grandparents-in-law, they have like an apartment complex in LA or in Santa Monica that they bought like 60-70 years ago,
Yeah,
which is now like ridiculous money, but like back in the days, like the grandpa, he was only on to work and he worked at Ralph's. It's like, like you couldn't make that up nowadays anymore.
right,
Um,
that's funny.
but like like the roof is pretty bad.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, well, like, cause I have two workers and they both used to work for a roofing company, they know
Yeah.
exactly how to do a roof.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I could just pull an owner's builder's permit, but because they don't live in there,
oh,
you
yeah,
can't.
oh, wow.
Which I'm like,
Oh, I
it's
know.
kind of dumb, cause like they punish you to hire somebody.
Yeah, and I don't know, roofs. Maybe borderline, because water in the house could lead to mold, but
Yeah.
usually it doesn't.
Right,
And usually, it doesn't make that much difference, and especially if you have people that have done roofs. Roofs are
Yeah.
pretty simple.
yeah,
If you've done a few, you pretty much know how to do them.
yeah, for sure,
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
I would streamline it totally if I was in charge of it.
Yeah, honestly, I would do like owner builders for like everything.
And I would have handymen have a much higher
Yeah,
limit.
yeah, cause I mean, honestly, I'm working off a handyman's license.
Yeah, and they should have, I don't know what it is now, it's like
800.
800, it should be several thousand.
Yeah, easily.
Contractors don't wanna mess with that, so they'll say, oh yeah, I'll do it for $5,000, just because they know they can get in and out of there and make money.
Yeah,
That breeds that corruption,
yeah,
when they could just have people that are competent.
yeah.
I need to
And
work.
then the thing is like, for example, I like, a lot of times I have to do stuff for like that much.
Yeah,
Because like otherwise, like for $800, it's not worth it for me to
Yeah.
even drive there, you
Yeah.
know?
right,
And so, and then I have to kind of like. Basically build them like several different bills for like tiny projects.
yeah.
In order to make it
Yeah.
legal, it's so
I
dumb.
know, it is
Yeah.
crazy, that's not fair, and a lot of our Hispanic, we have a lot of handymen that are Hispanics, and mostly because Mexico, the handymen do everything, and they're really skilled at whatever
Yeah.
they do. And they go up there and they can do anything,
Yeah, literally, yeah,
and we got taking advantage of that, and it's just,
yeah,
it's not a good system.
yeah. You still have your contractor's license or?
No.
No,
When I went to Maine, I had to, did I need it? I guess I didn't need it.
Mhm.
And so I let it lapse because it was like, I don't know, it was like a couple hundred a year, and I didn't want to spend that.
yeah,
And I thought it would last, but it only goes, I think, 5 years or
mhm,
7 years, and then you gotta redo it, and then you have to pay, or you have to pay yearly to keep it.
yeah,
So I wasn't just doing. By the time it lapsed, I was starting to get into education. I
okay,
was doing more of that. I thought it's not worth it to get a license, because I'm
yeah,
doing some building, but not a lot.
right,
And Maine's a lot more relaxed.
oh, okay,
Oh, yeah, New England's a lot more relaxed.
oh, nice. Yeah, in California, like, that's a horror of any regulation. Like.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's good, our air's good,
Yeah.
the gas ones, but other ones are like, "Ugh."
Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
It's such a great place, so it's like, you just put up with it,
yeah, that's true,
but they shouldn't have it. But
yeah,
I write a lot about, bioregional, where a government would just be local, there wouldn't even be a state or.
oh, yeah. That would
And it
make-
would be like from Carpinteria to Gaviotis would be
Yeah, like I feel
one
like
bioregion.
yeah, they should have so much more like like regions should have so much more autonomy.
We'd have autonomy, and also we'd participate more, because
Yeah.
we would see things getting done, we'd see the corruption.
Yeah, cause I
We'd
mean,
be
like,
right there instead of a million miles away.
yeah, and I think that would also help, cause I mean, like, right now. What I heard is like a lot of, like, let's say also like rural California areas, they feel totally disenfranchised, cause like.
Yeah.
All the money goes to like some random highway
Right.
speed project that they don't
Right.
even, like, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Even though like I would approve of like a high, like a high speed rail, but.
I know, but and also the rural areas, I mean, that split is horrible. The
Yeah,
rural areas have a lot, I lived in Maine, which is mostly rural, I lived
Yeah.
in the hills and by
yeah,
the ocean, totally rural. And they have a lot of values that are really good, that are better than city values.
oh, yeah, 100%.
And we shouldn't cut that off, there should be more interchange, right now, if they're just at each other's throats,
Yeah,
that's not good.
yeah, just let them live.
We can learn a lot from them, and they
Yeah.
can learn from us,
Oh, 100%.
And I think we ought to fill in and have suburbia kind of join it and have it more
Yeah.
continuous.
Yeah,
And then there'd be more of a flow, cause,
oh, for sure,
I mean, when I went to Maine, cause I was married to a woman and we were done with our business here, and she said, well, let's go back to Maine and live for a while, so I went for 10 years.
yeah,
And I've been out of California, but never, never in a place like Switzerland.
I mean, Maine is probably like the same, very similar, I guess,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I loved it, the winter was after 10 years, the long winter got to me, cause I was from here.
yeah,
But those 10 years, I loved it. I loved the way people were easier, you know, nobody, they left the keys in their car and nobody locked it. We didn't even have locks on our house doors.
Yeah,
And everybody was friendly and it was laid back. I mean,
that's the same thing in Switzerland, like,
yeah,
nobody cares.
yeah.
Like,
And it's probably like Switzerland too, people are more responsible.
yeah,
Kind of ethical, they don't do a lot of shit, you know, well, there's
Yeah.
probably some, but. You know, they're very upright people, you know, they don't,
yeah.
they just.
I mean, in
simple.
Switzerland, yeah, like, even like, I've lost my wallet a couple of times.
Yeah.
And you just get it back with all the money. Like, people are just like, oh, that's driver's license, okay, yeah, that'd be like. You know?
Yeah, here now the money you got, all the credit cards that you got.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd be charging up a storm before you got it. What's this?
Yeah,
2 cars? I didn't know what it is.
yeah, exactly, it's like,
Yeah. No, I know, that really changed my
Yeah.
outlook on the world.
yeah, and also just in general, I feel like. Just because of that, like, there's so much also there's mistrust from both sides.
Yeah,
'Cause I mean, like, another thing I just recently realized is here, like, in Switzerland, we have like $1,000 bills. And you can easily just get them at the ATM and the government has no problem with it, but here, like. They don't have like, let's say $1,000 bill anymore because they feel like
Right.
you're gonna do illegal stuff with it.
right. Well, and the credit card industry's gotten so big that
Yeah,
most people don't need that. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I don't think I've ever gotten $1,000 bill. Maybe I have.
no, I mean, it doesn't exist here
Yeah,
anymore,
yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
$100 and that's it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
wow, it's interesting.
yeah.
I know, it's. Well, we'll see where it goes. I write a lot about possible ways out of all this mess, but
Yeah, I feel like local, like, give local, like, people more power.
more power and, well, you know, if it's a democracy, we should all have power. And
Yeah,
we don't get it with the representative democracy that's 2,000 miles away.
Oh, for
We just
sure.
don't Get it.
yeah,
We have all these interlopers, you know,
yeah.
corporations and the
And
industry.
also, yeah, I feel like you should also, I don't know, like. I feel like a lot of problems are also just because like the system right now incentivizes extremists.
Yeah.
Cause like, you either, cause cause they only have 2 parties. And then you, like, in the primaries, you're trying to like basically cater only your
Yeah.
base and not the other side.
Yeah.
And so you're always like either super
No,
Democrat, or
that's-
super Republican.
That's not gonna work. I mean, we need a parliament at the minimum, you
Yeah,
know, like Europe has. And then there's problems with that too, but not as bad as what we've got now.
yeah, and so
It's nuts.
I feel like it would be nice if there would be
But if you
like,
had a local one, people would be face to face, they could talk over issues, they could compromise.
yeah,
They could say, okay, we'll try that, and next time we'll try this.
yeah,
And I like to get the schools involved. School kids are so smart because they don't have a lot of baggage yet. They
yeah,
could solve all kinds of problems.
for
Just
sure.
put in a little problem, say, well, you know, we're having trouble with the landfill. What can we do with this? Have they come up with 1,000?
Yeah. Yeah, or just like ranked choice voting would be nice.
Yeah.
Or like even like, let's say, a Republican or Democrats, that you could have several of them running at the same time
Yeah.
as president and not
Yeah,
first a primary and then, because that would then encourage that the other side would also start voting for
right,
like. if the
right,
wants
they
to
do. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny because it's so bad now and nobody has any idea what to do. I
yeah,
mean, we're just putting up with it and I'm thinking, you idiots, we can't do this. You know,
Yeah.
it's gonna totally implode at some point.
yeah,
We're just lucky it hasn't so far. And I'm going, but, you know, America's got a special consciousness, you know, it's different than Europe.
Yeah.
Asia, and we're not good futurists at all. Europeans much better at envisioning the future
yeah,
and taking chances and experimenting,
that's
what
true,
I see.
yeah,
Especially Netherlands and Switzerland and Germany and, I mean, the northern countries.
Yeah.
Granted, are doing more. But I mean, even Spain was leading the solar industry
sure,
for a
yeah.
long time. Who would know, you know?
yeah,
So, but yeah, we've got this weird consciousness and I mean, it's gonna pull us down. I hope it doesn't pull the world down,
yeah, yeah.
but,
Shush.
but we need to be talking more to each other
Yeah.
about all these things, you know? That's
Yeah.
why I do a little bit in class, because I want
Yeah,
people to know it's not just all about building. You know, you're only gonna be building part of your
Yeah.
life.
yeah, another fear I feel like is that, like, to me, it seems like there's more and more like very top-down politics.
Yeah,
And especially now with like the whole climate thing, like it creates so much resentment.
yeah.
And I feel like if you have more localized politics, it would like,
Oh,
people would be like so much more up for it, you know?
They participate more because
Yeah.
they know their voice was being heard.
Yeah, and they know like where the money's going and
Right,
stuff.
and the people that you're opposed to aren't strange assholes, they're your neighbors. you
Yeah.
know, And
Yeah.
family, so you go, oh, hey, how do we
Yeah,
figure this out?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, like, the lads would like. I guess probably like since 9/11, like. Every country like in the Western Hemisphere has gotten more authoritarian,
Yeah.
which is crazy and like
I know,
people just accept it.
I know,
Yeah,
it's so weird,
It's
I
so
know.
weird.
It really is. I know, I remember when Bernie,
Oh, Bernie Sanders,
yeah,
yeah.
was running, he would say, well, the
It's
biggest
pretty
problem
big
is.
time twice.
The biggest problem is the separation between the rich and the poor, it's just too big.
Yeah,
And sure enough, we're really feeling it now,
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and I mean,
And what he was advocating is stuff that Europe's been doing for 50 years.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't radical, whole parts of the earth
Yeah.
have been doing this fine.
I mean, but what's surprising to me is that like, even though they screwed him big time twice.
Yeah,
Like that he is still
I know,
loyal,
that's the kind of guy he is.
that's kind of,
He still stays with his values and doesn't get so upset. I mean, yeah, he's a good guy, he's too
Yeah.
old now to.
Yeah.
Run for president or anything, but,
yeah,
Biden's doing okay, considering the shape of the country and the world, it's a mess.
yeah,
And he's kind of holding it together, but he's not doing, and I don't know if anybody else would be either, but he's not doing things like thinking about, the divide and how we can get together. I mean, he just thinks, well, hey, let's all be friends. I mean, you can't just say that. I mean, you
yeah.
look at the hate that's out there. They're not gonna
Yeah.
listen to that.
I mean, I don't know, like, I'm not a fan of either of the sides, but to me, Biden is very neocon, like, style type, almost like Bush used to be, where
Yeah.
like he's pushing war really hard.
Well, there's that, not counting that side, yeah,
Yeah.
his domestic side's a lot better, but he's ignoring all the war issues. The thing with Ukraine is so evident,
Yeah,
I mean, there's been guys writing, scholars writing, saying that. We made a deal with Putin that, we wouldn't push NATO close.
Yeah.
And we broke all those vows, and then we wonder, I think what he's doing is not right, but at least there's something behind that.
yeah,
That we're not recognizing.
yeah,
And because we don't respect history,
yeah,
that's a big thing in this country.
yeah,
We don't learn history and we don't understand it at all.
yeah,
All you got, and there's guys writing going, are you kidding? This is what we were thinking about
Yeah.
back after the war.
yeah,
We had conferences about it, we had agreements. This isn't fantasy
Yeah.
and we've broken a lot of those deals
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
and they still want to do it.
Yeah, and my guess is it's probably not even Biden. I feel like it's just the handlers behind him because he's so old. Like,
It's the whole consciousness of the government.
Yeah.
It's not Biden.
yeah,
Biden's doing good stuff domestically that makes him better than, Trump
Yeah.
or maybe Bush, but. I agree, foreign policy, we're still cold wars,
yeah,
and we're gonna take the whole place down with us, and
yeah,
we just have no idea. And, I mean, such lack of imagination.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm thinking,
I mean, just
we should be
imagine,
talking about war.
Yeah.
Not that we can get rid of it, not that it's not serving some
Yeah.
purpose, but it's bad, it wrecks everything.
Yeah.
So what can we do? Everybody
Yeah.
use their
I mean,
imagination.
imagine how much like those trillions that we send to Ukraine, imagine
Yeah,
having agreed to that like peace agreement in the beginning.
yeah,
Imagine how much money we'd have
yeah,
now
to feed the rest of the world, feed us.
or to completely rebuild Maui 5 or 6 times, you know?
I know. It kills me when I do that. And
Yeah.
but we get into this thing where it's like a Chinese puzzle. We can't get out of it because if we do this and another, and it dictates everything.
Yeah,
And we gotta think beyond that. I mean, yeah, I know there's the issue, I know the problems,
yeah,
but we can't keep catering to those and go on because we're digging a hole
yeah,
to the finish.
yeah,
And we gotta have some new thinking, and I don't think Biden and any of those people are doing that, even the
Yeah.
people in Congress, they're old school.
oh, yeah.
And
I
that's
mean,
why I write this
yeah.
bioregional stuff.
That's the thing, like even McConnell, like he was freezing or
Mm.
whatever, like what? And then Dianne Feinstein is like.
I know,
a
and
walking
they can't even get
corpse.
rid of the, they can't get rid of them.
It's-
I'm going, just fucking kick him out,
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was more savvy than that. What happened, she's gotten senile, now she doesn't have the sense to get out.
Yeah,
You know, it's not the,
But I mean, well, but she has this, like, what I read is that she has a sense to like give her daughter, like, basically the full authority over, like,
yeah,
her finances, and so I'm like, she has some type of,
yeah.
you know, like, yeah, I don't know, like, it's my guess is that it's all like just party politics.
Well, you know,
On both
Pelosi,
sides, like,
I just saw her in the news, she's gonna stay in the house.
yeah, which is crazy to me as well, like, get it?
She's pretty smart, but she's old.
Yeah, and I mean, she
But it-
makes a lot of money with insiders.
But it's not, yeah, I know, but
I
it's
mean, it's both sides, but
it's not the age, you know, anymore. It's
Yeah.
whether you're old school or you have something new to offer.
yeah,
And I don't see anything new anywhere.
yeah, I mean.
So,
I kind of like RFK besides other, like, well, like, I don't like everything that he's saying, but like, I like that he's an environmentalist.
yeah, and he's questioning some things, sure. He has some weird views on some things,
Yeah.
but we don't have any ability to see the good and the bad and say,
Yeah.
okay, this, you know, we just see, if we don't like this one thing, then we hate him.
Yeah.
If we like this one thing, we like him,
Yeah, which is sad,
you know, and it's like Elon Musk the same way, you know?
yeah,
I mean, he's changed the world in many good ways. And now he's like kind of, you know. Buddying up to Putin, that's not probably
I
good,
don't think that he actually is,
but
though.
we don't know, it's kind of still
Yeah.
ambiguous there. We're all
Yeah,
hoping not.
but I mean, like, the one thing that I've found very crazy is because. Like, it's like, I don't feel like the government can make him do something with his property, you know, like, that's like saying like, oh, you have to now build bombers for us. When you're.
Well, no, not that, but don't you think we should be, if he's aiding the enemy in some way? I'm not saying he is, but if they found out he was, like he did something where he cut out internet in
No,
Ukraine that,
he didn't cut it out, he just didn't activate it.
and it was affecting the war effort.
Well, Ukraine asked if he could turn on his internet service over Crimea. And he declined, because he said he feels like that would involve
Yeah.
SpaceX and him directly in the war,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it's very dangerous for like then the media to like basically frame it
Yeah,
that
well, that's
way.
how they framed it, so
Yeah.
that's good you said that, because that makes sense.
Yeah, because.
But if he did do something, you would expect the government
Yeah.
to try to constrain him a little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I would even argue that he would even be allowed to do that because it is his own property, you know? Like, if it's, and the thing is, he's giving them service for free.